Way better when you actually turn your microphone on. It works better than when it's off. Welcome everybody. It is January 21st, 2024, and as I said the date January 21st, my brain has done a thing where it says you're supposed to remember today, and I don't remember why. I think, holy crap, what a weird thing brains are. I'm pretty sure today is my first real girlfriend in high school's birthday. And that just flashed him as I said the date out loud. I'm pretty sure that's what my brain is like. Don't forget. Holy crap. Brains are fucking metal. Welcome everybody. This is the Sunday Show. I'm Jimmy Snow. And this is Matt Dillahunty returning with me to take calls about, I feel like you've been hosting more often. If anything, I'm returning with you. Taking calls about spirituality, religion, theism, and the like. If you have a spiritual belief, a supernatural belief, an extra special belief, we want to hear from you and hear why you believe that way. Because if you know a truth that we don't and can demonstrate it, we want to know it as well. And if not, we want to talk about that, why you would feel that way. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. We did some snake work today because, there's no way I'm going to show up and not talk about snakes at some point. But we have hatched out. There's only one unhatched egg left in the incubator. We had our gray matter clutch of 7 hatch out, and one of them is a gray matter, although we're keeping an eye on it because gray matters have a gene called champagne, and the mother also had a gene called hidden gene woma. They're both in the spider complex, and there can be some wobble issues with it. So we're watching it, but so far so good. Just a little erratic, but we did some cleaning and resorting in preparation for the 2024 breeding season.
Very cool. Somebody in chat said today is their wife's birthday. I doubt your wife is my ex. I just want to say I doubt it.
You don't know.
This is the first time I've ever drank from a wine tumbler in my life. Even when I would drink alcohol, I never liked wine, so I never had a reason for a tumbler. But did you know that we have these awesome tumblers at linemerch.com? Linemerch.com, LANE merch.com.
Will you tumble the wine?
There's water in mine. Yeah, could someone explain to me why you need what does it mean to be a tumbler? And is there something I need to be doing with this? It seems like it's maybe some sort of ceramic on the outside, or that's just the coating, and steel on the inside. I assume to keep it cold. I don't know. I don't know what you need a tumbler for wine for, but we got them.
I don't really drink wine, so there's no way I'm not going to be able to answer your question or know anything. My tumbler is going to have iced tea or possibly some San Pellegrino.
Yeah. Anyway, it says you're on the wine with Jimmy and Matt. We have to do these sorts of things to pay for stuff. January is always, January's been stressful already for a lot of reasons, personal life stuff and work stuff. And then it's funny because every year, it's coming, that December is going to end and all of the increased ad rates and just easy money that YouTube throws at creators is going to go away, and that you'll suddenly you'll have a 20 to 30% drop in your revenue stuff. And yet every year, it's coming, and every year you're like, shit, it came. Please go buy our wine tumblers. It's fun. But anyway, I'm excited to let's take a look if we had.
That's a nice hoodie you're wearing there.
Yes, this hoodie's also there, and I will soon have the hot pink, or I don't know what, is that the version of, is Arden watching? What kind of pink? There's a pink one. I'll have mine soon too. This is becoming one of my favorite hoodies. It's actually made of a really nice material. Yeah. Anyway, that stuff is a thing.
Arden had a really good splash screen that we put up with the new Call the Line t-shirts, the mugs, the hoodies, all of it. She had a great splash screen. I don't know where it's at.
She's way more professional than me is the problem. And that's why I hired her, because she kicks ass. But that's a good point. I should have had that ready.
She kicked mine into doing snake stuff when I just wanted to relax before the show, but I'm a lazy bastard.
Yeah. Well, I feel that. I feel that hard. Anyway, we're going to get to calls here in a second. I will say last thing, there's a decent chance this week. Right now, I know I haven't been on the shows this much this month. I may do an extra, like, cause I want to or something, because I've got a lot to get off of my chest about how fucking stupid the current electoral cycle is. And so it may be that Tuesday before the New Hampshire primary, I might do a little cause I wanna. We now obviously have these openings on Tuesdays as Dying Out Loud has concluded. And we will eventually figure out what we're going to put in the Dying Out Loud spot as well. But that'll be something in the future. But holy crap, man. You know what's kind of funny is I know people will consider this controversial because no one wants to say anything close to a compliment about a Republican. And I feel that. And it's not really a compliment. It's kind of like saying this is the best smelling bowl of shit. But it's crazy that right now the Republican Party has a choice between arguably just two people. You could, say DeSantis is still in there, kind of, but is he? A choice between a person who's already been the worst version of a president and is broadcasting now that, I'll only be a dictator on day one, only on day one will I be a dictator. And he's saying all of this shit, basically just leaning hard into being a fascist now. So like the most embarrassing person they could have ever made and the other option is arguably, again, I am not saying I would vote for Haley versus Biden. I would certainly vote for Biden, but arguably the least embarrassing Republican candidate they've ever proposed. Like, of anybody who ever had a real shot, I can't think of a person she's not better than. Certainly better than the Bushes, better than Ray. Like, the least embarrassing person, not to mention, like it's being like, wow, the Republican Party's come a long way. A woman and a person of color, like really an opportunity to go, we're moving on from the obvious. The Confederacy is officially dead and will not rise again. That those are the two options. And they are so gung-ho for Trump still. Iowa. It was negative temperatures. The roads were unsafe, and he had a historic blowout victory.
Yeah, but my favorite bit of data related to the Iowa caucus is that Trump won the Iowa caucus, and yet 93% of registered Republicans did not vote for Trump in that caucus. And there were more people at the Paul McCartney concert than voted for Trump in that Iowa caucus. So while Trump won, and won handily, it's a really tiny little caucus that we're talking about, and I'm reluctant to try to. But the fact that he's in it at all or leading anywhere in any polls is just, it's really strange to me. But
if he blows out New Hampshire as well as he blew out Iowa in an actual primary where there's an actual contest. And in the days leading up, you had the DeSantis campaign in Iowa saying like, yeah, for sure, we're gonna win this, or it's gonna be close, and then it wasn't even close. It was off like 20 points or whatever the difference was. And then you had fucking Vivek saying that, yeah, watch, we're gonna poll bust, we're actually gonna win. None of that happened. He easily takes it. If it's not particularly close, it's just gonna be a sad day. But I still get very like. There's a lot of people on quote unquote our side. One person who this year or in the last couple of months, I was extremely disappointed with, who are like, have this attitude of like, ignore the polls. There's no chance he's going to win. Polls have been bad in the past, actually ignoring that the 2022 polls were the best polls that we have had in I think it's like over 40 years. The difference between the polls and the results was less than 5 points, which the bad polls that we talk about from 2020 and 2016 were at like 12-point differences. But whatever, ignore the polls, ignore the shifting demographics, ignore the signs that clearly Republican enthusiasm for Trump is going up. However, that might, if it's isolated to just Republicans, that would be fine. If independent was going down, that seems to be stagnant. But then you have these other demographics that were enthusiastic about the Democrats and Biden to some degree, or at least being the anti-Trump vote last time, that are losing their enthusiasm completely. I cannot relate to people who think there is no chance, like we're back in 2016, that Donald Trump could not win this November. And I want to shake everybody broadcasting any level of, even if they're right, even if there's like numbers that later they'll go back and go, actually in January, we knew there was no chance if we had just looked at all of this. Right now, I feel everyone should be behaving as though he is going to win and doing everything to prevent that they can. And the people that are just absolutely sleeping on this, it's driving me up the fucking wall. So that's why I say I might do it because I want to, because I feel like I just did a miniature one just now, a preview of how frustrating this has been. And then I believe it'll be this week. There's a reason why it went away, and it's now it came back, and then it went away, and now it's going to come back. I believe the relaunch of the Sometime Show, the relaunch of the Sometime Show, will be also this month. I am morphing that, the things that we did before. I'm morphing it again because the version that I was doing, it won't be solo anymore. I don't want to do it solo anymore, and I'm adapting that as well. And I actually think this final version, I hope it's the final version. Maybe I'll do it and I'll find I hate that one too. But I'm hoping that this final version will be the version. Anyway, that's just some stuff and some shit. There's great shows coming up this week. We'll talk about more of those here in a bit. And patreon.com/calltheline is the Patreon for the channel if you want to support there. Matt, otherwise I am ready to get on to calls. If you would stop delaying it. God, Matt, can we get on to calls already?
Yes. Do the calls.
All right, let's do this. Let's talk to Jay in North Carolina, who wants to discuss the burden of proof as a theist calling in to talk to atheists. Jay, North Carolina, you're on the line with Jimmy and Matt.
Hi, thank you for taking my call. My name is Jay. I'm agnostic. I enjoy your show and your guests. Sometimes I feel like the show focuses on breaking down theists. And it always seems to be like, the burden of proof is on the theist. So, like, my question is it's like a flip-flop. And I ask you to prove that God doesn't exist.
When Jay, hang on.
Well, hold on, please.
No. I'm not going to hold on. You hold on for me. Jay, would you please point out to me what person on the show, really right now, but we'll just say the channel, has ever made the claim God does not exist?
Well, I mean, I've only seen a few shows, but I enjoy your show, and I know it's not your approach.
No,
but
Jay,
I don't think
answer my question. Hang on. What question? You're answering some other question. I'll make it simpler. Jay, has Matt Dillahunty, the man sitting next to me virtually, ever made the claim God does not exist?
Probably.
I didn't say that. I know it's not your approach.
Answer the question instead of answering the question you think you want to answer.
Jay, this really goes, we're trying to get to a point. I'm confused about a bunch of things. First of all, the call screener said you're a theist, yet when we start talking to you, you say you're agnostic. So are you an agnostic theist? But when you're talking about, hey, just for fun, let's shift the burden of proof. All right, well, I can make arguments against the existence of various types of gods, including divine hiddenness, but there's not like a universal argument, and the burden of proof isn't on me, just like it's not on you to prove you're not a thief.
Right. So
if somebody says you're a thief, you don't have to prove them wrong. They have to prove that you are a thief.
Right.
So first
I know it's not your approach.
First question.
That's what I was trying to say. I know
Stop
it's not your approach.
Stop talking. Don't tell me what the fuck our approach is. Answer the questions. Jimmy asked if anybody had ever said here that God does not exist. And I've asked whether or not you're a theist. Answer those two questions or go away.
I'm agnostic and I'm on the fence. And all I'm saying is it always seems like I know it's not your approach to, have to disprove this, but all I'm saying is whether God doesn't or doesn't exist, you can't show it on paper either way.
Jay.
Oh my God.
If we were to say whether or not Jay is a thief is something that you can't really show on paper either way, what would you say?
I would say if there's, enough evidence and Jay was caught doing something bad, then that's probably proof that he committed a crime.
Yeah. Jay, can you prove you're not a thief?
But you can't prove God does or does not
Excuse me, Jay,
exist.
that was not a question.
Jay, can you prove you are not a thief? Why is this so fucking hard for you to answer a simple question?
Well, I don't have a criminal record. I've never been convicted of any crimes, so I can prove I'm not a thief.
Jay, can you prove you're not a thief?
Yeah, I've never been convicted of a crime. There's no video evidence. I've never been to jail.
Right, I'm fucking muting you because you won't stop fucking talking. Answer the question. Jay, is it possible that someone is a thief who has not been convicted of a crime? Yes or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
So then if they haven't been convicted of a crime, that does not prove that they're not a thief, right?
I guess not.
Correct. So when I said, can you prove you're not a thief? Why did you say you've never been convicted of a crime if that won't prove you're not a thief?
I think that's a circular argument. What I called in about today is prove. You always say prove God exists, and I say prove he doesn't exist. That's
Jay,
what I'm saying.
Go the fuck away.
I legitimately wonder if you're pretending to be this. I'm trying to not just use a phrase that is insulting. This is ridiculous. Jay,
you're not going to hurt my feelings. I'm being honest. I'm being honest with you. It's not going to hurt my feelings.
Great.
You can say
I don't believe you're being honest. You want. Shut up.
I've muted you now. I don't care about any of that stuff. Jay, do you believe that purple pixies which create Skittles exist? Answer the question, Jay. Do you believe that purple pixies that create Skittles exist?
Oh, that's like the leprechaun thing.
All right, goodbye. Since you're not going to answer the question,
goodbye. You fucking troll.
I'm not doing it. If you're not going to answer the fucking question, I'm sure that the pause last time was probably you muting, so we didn't hear that you were laughing or whatever. I don't need it.
You don't need to lie to the call screeners and say you're a theist just so you can be the first one on the show, especially if you're going to present some of the dumbest shit I've ever heard. I did everything that I could to demonstrate the burden of proof in a couple of different ways. And you're like, well, I know that's not your thing. I know that's not your method. I know that's not your style. No, my method, my style, my process is to engage skepticism and to apply the burden of proof correctly. It would be absolutely stupid for us to do a show where we just sit around and try to prove that gods don't exist. Because, by the way, which God? Which God? I have to come up with a different argument for every single God. That's why when people call in to say, I believe in a God and I have a good reason, we've had incredibly good discussions because they're telling us what they believe and why. It is beyond absurd to suggest that we should maybe try doing it a different way. Instead of waiting for people to call in and tell you what they believe and why, just tell them why they're wrong ahead of time and just come up with a different argument for every single one of them that's wrong. Yeah. Jay, you're like I don't believe you. I don't believe that you can actually string sentences together that are that fucking clueless.
Also, I mean, even just zooming out, he's wrong from the onset. Because if you bring a specific God proposal, that one will poke holes in all goddamn day. Literally, yeah. It's one of the more fun things to do on this show than just go, I enjoy poking holes in Christianity than I do poking holes in deism because deism is stupid.
There has to be honesty. There has to be honesty in these discussions. And Jay was completely disinterested in being honest. If you go back, don't go back now because we're live. Yeah. But if you go back and watch last week's show, we had a number of theist callers and we had good, honest discussions. If somebody asks you, hey, can you prove you've never stolen anything? The answer is no.
But for
It just
fun, why don't you prove that Matt, for fun, why don't you go ahead and take that on?
Yeah. It's strange to me that someone who lies about whether or not they're a theist. Oh, I'm an agnostic who's on the fence. Then you're not a theist, and you shouldn't have told the call screener you were a theist so you could get to the head of the queue.
What a fucking... I'm not using the word pussy anymore like that, but that was the word I almost screened. Ron DeSantis just dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump. Fuck you, DeSantis. What a fucking little wuss you are. Oh, really? My fucking God. What a little...
I was like, I could tell by your reaction you were not talking about anything that happened here and something else happened.
I had to step away for a minute. What a little piece, like, oh my God. And endorses. This is the Ted Cruz thing that happened last time. Fucking Christ. We have so many calls. I won't go off on this. We have a ton of great theist calls, so I'm not going to go long. But does everybody remember Ted Cruz, like, was hitting back at Donald Trump when Donald Trump was shitting on Ted Cruz's wife? She's ugly like a dog, looks like a real dog next to, like, just absolutely going after his family, said his father had stuff to do with the JFK assassination. And then Ted Cruz drops, I support Donald Trump. I'm going to be calling on November 5th, asking you for your vote. What a bunch of, like, just absolutely cowardly assholes who... It reminds me of the whole, not that any of these people were good men, but the quote about all that is needed for evil to thrive is for good men to do nothing. But it's more than that. It's like these are people with power who just completely there are these phrases that I haven't replaced well, like bend over. I need to replace these phrases. Bent the knee.
All the way back in 2016 when Cruz literally said, I'm not in the habit of supporting people who attack my wife and attack my father. And I pledged to support the candidate, but that pledge was a blanket statement. And if you go and slander and attack Heidi, I'm going to come, nevertheless come. I'm going to nonetheless come like a servile puppy dog and say, thank you very much for maligning my wife and fathers, which is exactly what the fuck he did.
Yeah. And now Ron DeSantis, he's a bad deal. MAGA's not with him. He's been shit on nonstop. And like, how does anybody respect any of these fucking people? What a little piece of shit. We
got a Sunday show to do, and I want to get like legit theistic callers who aren't trolling like the last one, because I'm genuinely looking for a good conversation finally.
Yeah, let's. I kind of want to actually try it. Let's try Khalid. Is it Khalid or Khalid in Birmingham? Khalid?
No, Brighton.
Yeah, hello?
Yeah, hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi, Jimmy. Hello, Matt.
Good.
Cheers.
How do you pronounce your name?
Khalid.
Khalid. Okay. It says that you have been led to deism by science, philosophy, and reason. Go ahead.
Yes, so I think... it's rational to believe in God and irrational.
Okay, hang on. Stop.
Stop.
I don't know
nothing
what
to do with your content. It's something about audio.
I don't know what you're calling in on, but it sounds like a World War II radio.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a short.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're going to disconnect you. Just go ahead and reconnect right away. We'll pull you right back on. Try and make it very quick, and we'll see if that fixes it. What's that?
Is it better now?
Actually, it sounds like it might be. So we'll proceed as though it's this. And apparently, I've got the wrong name up. I'll fix this.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Kelly.
Yes. So I said that science, philosophy, and reason leads you to deism. It means that you have to believe in what most people would call God, or a deity that has the attributes of what most people would call God, Alpha and Omega, a being that has no beginning, no end. So a being like that has to be there when you think about, even philosophically or science. Reason would tell you that as well. If we go with reason, for example, something cannot come from nothing. There is something, therefore there was never nothing. So, something like a God has to be there. But I understand in different cultures they might call that being different names. So yeah, that's my.
It's interesting because you listed science, philosophy, and reason, and then you gave a very brief reason. You gave a very brief philosophy example, but you skipped the science. Hang on. You skipped the science one. You didn't give a.
Okay.
So I'm curious. 1 second. Yes, please point to what scientific theory or scientific establishment has ever ended in, therefore, some sort of God or creator is likely to exist.
So you have the singularity theorem by Stephen Hawking, and
Stephen Hawking was an atheist, so this won't be the one that ends in a God.
I'm not saying no, Jimmy. I'm not saying that he was atheist or he was not. I'm just saying that his theorem, singularity theorem by so Roger Penrose and Stephen Hawking. But you have the CCC model, you have the BGV theorem, you have the quantum tunneling by Alexander Vilenkin. So all of them, when you think about it, it can't just come from absolute nothing.
So you don't have an actual. So to be clear, you don't actually have a scientific theory that suggests the existence of a God. You believe, as I presume, a layperson, because of the way you're presenting those ideas, you believe that the best conclusion of taking those into account is that a God would exist, despite the fact that none of those theories end with that conclusion. Correct?
No, but that's not what I'm saying.
Hang on. I understand the rest of your argument, but is it correct or incorrect to say that none of the scientific theories or hypotheses presented here actually end with the conclusion that a God or a creator must exist?
So, yes, but if I could end this sentence. So, for example...
Khalid, I will let you get to it. I promise.
Yeah, okay.
I just want to point out that you have called in and said that 3 categories get you there: science, philosophy, and reason.
Okay.
By answering that was correct, we need to put down the science one. You can say that science was somehow a part of one of the other 2, but science does not point to a God. Can we agree on that?
A God, I would not agree on that, and I will be happy to elaborate
theism
on
or
it.
deism of any type. There is no science that has there's no scientific theory that concludes a deistic God or any sort of theistic proposition is correct. Now, if you want to include in one of your philosophy arguments or your reasoned arguments that this from science shows an absence here or whatever, go for it. But I want to be, it's being a little bit pedantic and hyper scrutinizing your phrasing here. But I would like to point out that it is not correct to say that science points to a God exists on your own admissions here. Now, go ahead with the rest of your argument now that we have that out of the way.
Okay, so Jimmy, so I would say that you can. I would go as far as to say you can pick any hypothesis or scientific theories. You can take all of them points to some sort of of this being that you would have to apply some attributes of a creator to that hypothesis or that theory. So, for example, if we go with just an example, you can go with, I will let you pick any theory or hypothesis later on, but just to give you an example. So they say that in singularity theorem, what we're talking about the observable universe. We're not talking about the whole universe. So even if we go with inflation theory by Alan Guth, you're talking about, with the multiverse, you would have to apply some attributes of God to that multiverse. So, for example, you refuse to call it God. You're just calling it a multiverse. That multiverse has to have no beginning, no end. It has to be infinitely large.
Khalid, Khalid, stop. Because you're going off now on multiverse. The multiverse hasn't actually been established to exist. This isn't a scientific theory. Hang on.
That's an example, Jimmy.
So What you are trying to get at when you're saying you have to come up with some attribute of blah, 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 there has to be a moment of origin. It would seem like. It would seem. However, one of the ones that you're saying, it has to have been created, or one of the ones people like to say is the Big Bang, something had to cause the Big Bang. That hasn't been established either. Because as far as this whole cause and effect thing, seems to be a quality of, hang on, do not interrupt me.
Jesus Christ, dude, shut up.
Let me finish. It seems to be a quality of the universe. We cannot say that it is a quality of, for example, the singularity. In fact, the singularity, if that is the correct hypothesis, it appears to break physics, laws of physics and all kinds of things in many ways. So not only would it not be the case that we can say the universe as it is now has the same rules as the universe before in the form of the singularity, we can actually point to things to say if the singularity theory is correct, it didn't have the same laws. It didn't behave the same way. So already you're pulling out this one and just trying to say, it has to have an attribute of a God, as though to say something must have an origin means something has to have an originator, a creator, an actual person, a thinking mind. None of that has been established.
Can I go on?
I'm sure you will.
It's nice of you to ask, but yes.
Okay, so now it's actually kind of raised that you mentioned a very interesting point there. You say that at the singularity, even at the center of a black hole, the laws of physics actually breaks down. That's actually true. But if we go with that now, how can I ever or anyone then bring a scientific, evidence for you? If the laws of nature breaks down at singularity, then how can you ask for scientific evidence for God?
So, first of all, Khalid, the fact that you can't do it is an admission on your part. It's not a problem with science, and it's not a problem with our epistemology. You've just admitted you can't present the evidence. That's not a problem with science or our view. That's a problem with you accepting something for which you can't present evidence.
And a basis which you weren't disagreeing with. You actually were affirming before you presented it. So correct. As Matt is famous for saying on this show, and I've been recently copy and pasting his answers because it sounds better than my version, deism is unprovable. It's undetectable. You can't. It's impossible to establish deism. And you just laid out and affirmed the basis for which that is true.
And the last thing that I'll interject with before I let you talk again, because I know you're going to want to, is that it's one thing to say, hey, when we look at, the origins of the universe, when we look at the best models, it leads us to a number of things that have properties that are consistent with what some people would say is God. And yet the problem is there's been no demonstration that there is any such God with those properties. And if there is something with those properties at the foundation, that doesn't mean it's a God. It's timeless, it's the beginning. Yes, even if that were the case, that there's something timeless at the beginning, that doesn't make it a thinking agent. It doesn't make it an agent with purpose or intent. It doesn't make it a creator or a God as a creative force. You're simply saying, you might as well say, hey, the book says God was at the beginning, and there's a beginning, so that's a characteristic that's compatible with God. It's not enough to say that there are elements that are consistent with what people have called God, or more accurately, that some people have described God in ways that are consistent with certain features. You have to show that the specific features, including agency, that make for a thinking being as a God, that those are essential to the origin as well.
Yeah, but Matt, specific is not enough to point for a specific God, maybe, but not a deistic God. A deistic God.
It's not enough to point to any God. It's not enough to point to any God. A deistic God is undetectable. A deistic God does not interact with reality in any detectable way. So if you're claiming to detect the indetectable, then you're now unreasonable.
So you're saying that? Well, I'm not talking about a specific God. I'm just talking about a creator, or
what are the
God.
List for me.
No, but
List
even
for
a
me.
thinking agency.
List
I'm not
for
finished.
me.
I'm not
List
finished.
for me. I don't give a shit if you're finished. I've been quiet. List for
But
me.
I'll let you finish. Wait, is
Shut
that fair
the
now?
fuck up and list for me now the features of the God you're saying you can demonstrate. Nate, give me the qualities of that God.
Why are you asking me to why are you asking me to stay quiet when
And now I muted you, and I'm going to explain it to you,
yeah.
Khalid. I'll explain it to him, and we'll let him back on, because maybe it's your first time, maybe you haven't been here, and I'm trying to be more zen or whatever. I'm trying to be more chill. We've been doing this a long time. When you make a claim or you make a statement, and then you try to go on for more, we stop you at the claim that we don't need to go past. As sad as it is, as much as people wish it wasn't, there is not equality of platform in this show. You will stick to the questions that you are asked, and if you try to go on in a different direction, you're gonna be stopped, you're gonna be intercepted, and we're going to get it back in that direction. If that is something you can handle, we'll continue the conversation and we'll go on. If it is not, then we'll just move on. It's fine. You don't have to be here if you feel that's a conversation you're not going to stick into. But you do have to stick to the questions, and you don't get to make a point and then try to move on into something else, especially when people try to over-explain their points. We've heard them a million times. We don't need them reiterated for the millionth and first.
All I need.
Yep.
All I need is for you to list some of the features of the God you're talking about. That's it. You can either do it or you can't. Give me some features.
Khalid, you're unmuted. Did you mute him in? Sorry. You're unmuted now. I think we both muted, one on the board and one in the PC. We should be able to hear you now, Khalid.
Yeah, that's my bad.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So features, I would say no beginning, no end.
Any others?
Alpha, Omega, no beginning, no end.
Okay, Alpha is the beginning and Omega is the end. So you can't equate Alpha and Omega with no beginning, no end. You're just quoting some Bible crap. Alpha and Omega don't have meaning as far as features of something. So the features of the God. Let me finish my fucking sentence. The features of the God that you're advocating for, so far you've given me, it doesn't have a beginning or an end. What are the features?
Okay. Why do you need more? Let's start with this. You asked for, I give you two.
Okay. All right. Listen to me very carefully. Even if there was something that had no beginning and no end, you have no way of demonstrating that it doesn't have an end. But even if it did, that doesn't make it a God. It makes it something with no beginning and no end. A God has some set of features that go beyond just, there's something that doesn't end. You know what else doesn't end and doesn't begin? The set of integers, the set of whole numbers, that doesn't begin and doesn't end. Is that God? Is that God?
Matt, that's your God.
Is the set of fucking integers God? Yes or no?
A deistic God.
Is the set of integers? Is the set of fucking positive and negative whole numbers? Is that set, which has no beginning and no end, is it God?
But I give you two projects. I can give you more.
Yes or fucking no, is it God?
Yes, but a lot of people would call you God. Why do you have a problem? If somebody calls that God, why do you have a problem?
I don't have a problem, you dumb motherfucker. I'm just asking you to answer yes or no so we can get on to the next point.
He left.
Good. Goodbye.
Yeah. Khalid, you are...
Why do you have a problem if somebody says that that's God? I don't. If you would answer the fucking question, we could have moved on to the next thing. But you won't.
It's literally the backed in the corner, realizes he's losing, won't answer, won't actually. It's like what politicians do. And it's really sad because this is how people are modeling, not just in politics, but across debates and across conversations people are having, having conversations. You don't answer the question you are asked. You answer the question you want to answer, or you answer the version of it that makes you sound defensible. And it was fucking hilarious. I don't know if you heard it in there, Matt, but as you were breaking it down and asking him, he then also tried to say, I can give you more qualities if you want, after moments before yelling about, why are you asking for more qualities? Why don't those qualities work?
I'm just, look, I'm pretty much done apologizing for calling people out for being absolutely shitty in conversation. If I call you a dumb motherfucker because you were shitty in conversation, unless somebody can demonstrate that you didn't deserve it, you absolutely fucking deserved it. Because we're sitting here trying to get to the core of what is it that you believe, why do you believe it, and why should anybody else believe it? And so your thing is, if you follow back quantum mechanics to this, you'll get to something that has no beginning and no end. And that sounds a little bit like a God. Okay, what are the features of this God? Well, it has no beginning and no end. Okay, here's something else that has no beginning and no end. Is that God? The obvious answer is no. But if you want to go with yes and say that the set of whole numbers is God, okay, cool. Your God is not anything I'm remotely interested in. It doesn't have any of the features of anything that anybody would ever really go down and say is a God. It is a waste of time for Jimmy and myself and other people to sit here and debate whether or not numbers count as God. It's beyond stupid. But if you want to say that that's it, you don't get to pretend like I have a problem with you saying it. I have a problem with you not answering the question. I have a problem with you obviously being trapped. I have a problem with you claiming to detect the undetectable. I have a problem with you saying, oh, there must be something. It's the alpha and omega. That's a nonsense phrase.
After saying it's not the alpha and omega. Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I can give you other properties. You should have done that a minute ago. When I asked for more and you're like, why can't that be enough? And then I explained to you why that can't be enough. And as soon as you understood that you were obviously in way the fuck over your head, then you want to give me another one. If you just answer the questions, theists, please, first of all, be honest. I don't even care if you bring your A game anymore. Just be fucking honest. If we've gone to all the trouble to engage and have a conversation and we ask a question, just answer the question. If the answer is, I don't know, then the answer is, I know. If the answer is, Matt, you're too stupid to have this conversation, then at least that's honest.
I'm going to dispatch with this one very quickly because I don't even know why it's here. So I'm just going to answer it and say, Nate in California, you were wanting to call in because you want to talk about trans women in sports. You called to TACIS and you weren't satisfied with the answers you got. So I'm just going to call to tell you, call back to TACIS and work on the things that you find not satisfying. I don't know. You're not going to get better answers from two cis hosts who frankly don't know the issues as well as the people who are on. You have literally a fucking doctor on Transatlantic on several weeks a month. So what is it? What is there something that is relative to today's subject that you think we should be taking that on today's show? Otherwise, we're going to move on.
No, it's absolutely not related to today's subject at all. So if you need their time back, I can give it back to you. Yeah, absolutely.
It's all good. Call TACIS on Thursday. We'll see you.
All right, man. Cheers. Bye.
Dope to dope.
Although I will say, as an addendum, for all the people who are like, and I think I probably said this last week, I'm happy to talk about, defend trans issues, not necessarily so much on the Sunday show, but I've done it a lot on Wednesday, and you can book a debate and I'll do more. But if you're a cis dude and you have problems with trans women in sports, too fucking bad. Nobody cares about your opinion. Your opinion is relevant. You are not the arbiter of some sports organization, unless you are, in which case we can talk to that. You're not the trans people that are being affected. You're not the doctors involved in this. You're not an expert on any of this stuff where your opinion should be valued. You're just somebody else who heard something and is a little, well, I'm just not sure about trans women in sports. Okay, continue being not sure. Nobody fucking asked you.
Yeah.
Mind your business.
it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, I get it. You you might be in a genuine search for that answer. Maybe you think you care. I can't bring myself to care about the sports stuff, but I care about human rights stuff. The phrase, I mean, I already hung up, so they're not here to defend any of this. So I'm just speaking generally.
Directing that at them.
The phrase of like, not to my satisfaction was the thing that I was like, okay, well, find out why it has met the satisfaction of, for example, the Olympics. Go look at that stuff. But meeting your satisfaction is not the barrier for meeting whatever needs to be met to allow trans people to participate in sports as they should be.
Hey, we got loads of theist scholars today, by the way, so that's cool. I'm excited because there weren't as many early last week. So welcome.
Let's keep trucking along. Want to. Oh man, it is interesting that so many people are not calling to defend their religious experience of God, but just a general concept. I feel like 3 or 4 of these calls are essentially the same call of.
The last one's definitely not. Look who called.
Yeah, I know. That's the one I'm assuming is going to be a troll, but we'll try it. I don't know.
Might as well do it to clear the line.
God. What?
How's it going?
Right. So this is a joke call. What's the idea here?
Well, when I listen to how you speak, and like I think the flaw in your argument is you are assuming that you can use human tools to measure the God.
Right. Because
okay.
Let me just finish my talk. Right?
No, I think I won't.
Okay. First of all, you don't get to tell us when to finish, but when you say we're assuming that you can use human tools to explore God, we're actually not assuming that. When people say they believe in a God, we ask them what to describe the God that they believe in and why. And so they're going to be giving us their methodology on what convinced them that God is real.
Yeah.
And so
sorry, go on.
Since you claim to be God, what tools should we humans be using to confirm that you exist, God?
Well, that's the problem. You don't have the tools.
Okay.
To measure
so
if I exist or not. Well, can I do a
hang on? Would you hang on? You answered that question. I have another question. And that is, if humans don't have the tools, then what you're saying is that humans cannot be rationally justified in believing in a God, correct?
True. Yeah, true.
Cool.
They can or cannot believe, but they can't prove the assumption that they can't have a rational. They can't have a rational. Wow, it's just like you. You're like a God that won't shut the fuck up. So you've acknowledged that humans don't have the ability to have a rational belief in a God. So there's no point in us continuing to talk to you, right? Well, what's your definition of rational? Again, you see, the problem you keep looping to the.
It doesn't matter. You said you already conceded. You already ceded the point. You said that human beings can't have a rational belief in a God.
Well, you kind of flipped it a little bit. I was saying that you don't have the tools to justify existence of a God.
I didn't say anything at all about existence. I didn't see God. You're not a very good listener. I didn't say anything at all about existence. You said that we could not justify belief in God because we didn't have the tools. And so I asked you a clarifying question to get confirmation that what you were saying is that because we don't have the tools to properly explore the God issue, we cannot have a rational belief in a God. So if we can't have a rational belief in a God, you don't get to come back and say, well, you have a definition of rational. No, you conceded that. There is just rational, and you've already conceded that point. So what's left?
Well, you're extracting rational from your ability to measure something using limited tools that you have. That's the problem.
No, I didn't say anything at all about the ability to measure something. We talked about, you said that humans could not properly investigate, explore the God issue because we don't have the tools. That was your claim, and that leads to the conclusion that therefore humans can't have a rationally justified belief in a God. And I asked you to confirm that, and you did. So Have I just beaten God in a debate and God's now just whining about how it happened?
No, it says that Matt does not.
No. I'm sorry, God, but you are not equipped to have this conversation. You don't get to switch.
Let me give you a metaphorical.
No, you're not going to give me anything. I'm going to mute you and you're going to listen to me, because it's very rare that I get God on the line here. Once you acknowledge that humans can't have a rational justification for believing in God, you don't then get to try to spin it as if it's my rationality or that Matt doesn't have a reason. Now, so I'll ask you again, God, since that's what you claim to be, how can you demonstrate to a human like me that you are, in fact, God? How can you demonstrate that?
Using your tools, impossible. Because they're too limited.
Cool. Goodbye.
Yeah, this was stupid. It's like you called to say, I do not have the tools to build a house, or humanity doesn't have the tools to build houses. But some of humanity will still build houses anyway. And that's stupid.
No.
Yes, that is. No, you said we don't have the tools. Houses can be built. I don't give a fuck. I'm already bored with you. I thought this thing was stupid and boring. You said we don't have the tools to do it, but you are here to defend that some people somehow do it anyway. If we don't have the tools to investigate a God, you can't build a God belief. Goodbye. That was just a stupid call.
Yeah. So
go on.
I can't prove when anybody's using a real name or not. And so if you call in and you say your name's God and that you're from omniscience, which is literally what it said. It said God, omniscient. And then in the first few seconds of any discussion, you acknowledge that my position, which is I have no foundation on which anybody could have a rationally justified belief in God. If you justify that that is correct, I'm sorry, but of all the gods I've heard of, you're definitely the weakest at arguing, but I will give you points for showing up, because none of the... Oh, it's actually a quote from Doctor Who. Of course you knew it wasn't a god. What do all gods have in common? They never show up. There's your Doctor Who quote, or paraphrasing, because I'm probably sure I didn't get it word for word, and I don't sound like Peter Capaldi.
This one should be quick. Malik is from Saudi Arabia, a theist who believes in God because he cannot imagine a world coming out of nothing. Therefore, has determined there must be a creator. Malik, first of all, how are you?
Hello, Jimmy. Hello, Matt.
I want to ask.
I'm good, thank you.
I want to ask, because so many people seem to be calling in more defending some sort of deistic proposition or the softest theistic position you can imagine. Malik, do you have a belief in a specific God, or are you just speaking to this concept of a creator and nothing else as far as what you believe in?
I believe there is a creator who is the God, and he is the characteristics of the God is he is the one who knows everything. He is the one who started everything. He is the one who set up every laws in the nature.
Okay. But beyond that, Malik, what I'm asking you is, so for example, you're calling in from Saudi Arabia, where I know that Islam is the most popular religion. Are you a Muslim, or are you not attached to an Abrahamic religion or a more structured religion?
I am a Muslim.
Okay. So it's not just that you believe that there must be some kind of creator God, because that's sort of what it was indicated by the notes, that your belief in a God is because you just can't imagine a world without it, which, if you haven't already heard of an argument from incredulity, we can talk about it if we must, but your inability to imagine something else or know the answer does not mean a God exists. Not knowing an answer, but then positing an answer with not adequate justification is not better than saying, I don't know. So my question for you is, do you really believe in Islam and Allah just upon the basis of, I can't imagine a world without a creator, therefore the Quran is true? Or is there some other thing besides an argument from incredulity that affirms your faith in an Islamic God?
Here what I believe. First of all, being agnostic, looking for God, that is fair to me. If someone said, I am agnostic, I am looking for God, prove the God I will believe, that's fair for me.
Okay, but that's not what an agnostic is. An agnostic is not a person who is looking for God. There may be an agnostic person looking for God, but an agnostic is a person just who simply says, I don't know, and you can be agnostic to, when we say agnostic, we usually mean the God proposition. I don't know if there's a God. I'm colloquially considered an agnostic atheist, but I'm not seeking a God. I'm seeking anything that is true, and if a person presents truth in the form of a God proposition, which is what we do here on the show, that's great. But I'm not out there going, I'm going to go find that God, because that begins with the assumption there's a God to find.
I agree. However, having a show, receiving calls from theists, asking them why do they believe in a God, that's kind of seeking the God, isn't it?
No.
Well,
if there is a God which exists, sure. But my motivation is more that I see the absolute detriment to society that religion has been, and like to model conversations with people who would defend the existence of those religions, open to the idea that a person could call and thwart me in my attempt to make religion a lesser problem in this world and present the truth of a God. But no, I would say I'm more motivated to help people deconstruct from what is clearly a huge group of very harmful beliefs, including Islam, which is among the worst ones. I am more motivated by that than seeking. I'm not seeking a God because I don't believe in a God. But if a God is presented to me, or adequate proof is presented to me, I would believe in that God. But I'm not motivated I'm not putting on my pack. I'm going to go up that mountain and find me that God.
But it doesn't matter, because even if the show was about a sincere seeking of God, which I'm fine with, I have no problem at all still seeking. I don't think I'm lucky to find anything. But even if Jimmy and I were both here desperately seeking God, that wouldn't have anything to do with whether or not agnostic means seeking a God or anything like that.
Sure, that's all. Yeah, definitely also true. So Malik, what's a good reason for you to believe in? I assume you would use the term Allah.
Yeah, I believe that the universe had a beginning.
I think I do too. I think I also believe the universe had a beginning, depending on what that word beginning means as well. But I also think so. But that so far we're on the same page. Universe, especially universe as we know it, has a beginning. That one I would even more say affirmatively. So we're on the same page so far. Now, take that to the God belief.
Okay, if you believe that the universe has a beginning, so there must be something before the beginning, because I cannot imagine.
Wait, Malik, hang on. You just said there must be something before the beginning. Wouldn't that mean it isn't the beginning? Is the beginning not the origin moment?
No. There was no matter. There was no energy. How can that Big Bang happened without?
I don't know that any of the things you just said were correct. So first of all, Malik. Yeah. Go ahead, Matt.
Big Bang cosmology doesn't say there was no matter. Big Bang cosmology is about an expansion of everything. It doesn't say whether or not that stuff existed beforehand. We can't investigate prior to the Planck time. So the Big Bang cosmology that we currently have, which is the best model we have, shows that time begins there and space-time expands. But if you're going to say it's the beginning, you don't get to talk about before the beginning. How do you talk about before time? What does that even mean?
Because I cannot consider God within the time space. He must be before that.
No. So you're not answering the question that I. You're not answering the question I asked. So let me try and answer this a different way, or ask this a different way.
I'm sorry.
Hang on.
We understand.
Hang on. So. Just listen. Just listen.
He's going to simplify it.
Just listen. does the fact that you find something difficult to believe have any bearing on whether or not your conclusion is correct?
Not difficult, no. Impossible to happen.
No. Wow.
Yeah, Malik.
Okay.
It's tough because I'll tell you, Malik,
point?
If there was a way to expand this channel that I knew we could sustain financially, the very first thing I would do is create a version of this show in Arabic. And I would make it available to the Arab world. Unfortunately, that is for multiple reasons.
That would be amazing.
Not viable. I know. It really would. But I think we are hitting some barriers because you're answering questions that I kind of get. What question you think you're trying to, you're answering the question that I suspect that is all of the words you did kind of put together well, but there's a language barrier here, and it's the words that maybe didn't make it that are you're answering questions that are tangential. They almost sound related, but you're not answering the questions you're being asked. Malik, do you know what an argument from incredulity is?
Sorry?
Have you heard of the phrase argument from incredulity?
No.
So I don't know how to translate it for you. So I'll just say the phrase again and say in Arabic or whatever language you speak, go look this up and absorb this concept. And we might be able to in the future get further with this concept because this is what we're trying to talk to you about. So it's an argument from incredulity. INCREDULITY. And I'm sure that Arabic resources, is it Arabic? I don't want to be presumptive. Is Arabic your native language?
Yes, my Arabic is my native language.
Sure.
However, I can show you that what I want to say in English.
It's not a matter of whether or not you think you can communicate your thing. It's that the conversation is a back and forth where we try to scrutinize and examine the statements you are making. We're failing at the point of language. And this specific concept of the argument from incredulity is literally from the notes that you gave through the last 9 minutes of conversation is the core problem that we're needing to communicate to you and not able to.
Can you ask the question again, please, Matt?
So you said that you just can't believe something about God. And I asked whether or not your inability to believe it is relevant to whether or not it's true. And then you changed what you said so that instead of saying, it's not just that I can't believe it, it's that I believe it's impossible. Okay. Does the fact that you believe something is impossible mean that it's actually impossible?
No.
Okay. How can we demonstrate whether or not something is possible or impossible?
Depends on the mind of people. How do they think?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
Based on the logical arguments.
Sure. So I would assume that you would agree that if somebody said this is possible, they would need to demonstrate that and support that with evidence. And if somebody said this is impossible, they would need to demonstrate that with evidence, right?
Correct.
Okay. What are you claiming is impossible, and what's the evidence for that?
I'm claiming it's impossible to demonstrate or measure physically the existence of God. But
so you think, hang on. So you think it is impossible to demonstrate that God exists?
Physically, yes. I cannot show you the God or prove you with evidence based that God exists. However,
okay,
I can say the universe.
Go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, if you're saying it's impossible to demonstrate that God exists using, I don't know, physical evidence. How could you demonstrate? Well, you believe that God exists. So what is your demonstration that God exists?
That the existence of the universe.
Okay.
Must be someone
the existence
or something
is it
behind us.
Okay. I don't know how we got to you saying something is possible, because now you're saying you believe in God because the universe needs a person behind it.
Person or agent or something.
Okay. How do you know that the existence of the universe requires an agent?
Because I cannot imagine that something happened from nothing.
Right at the beginning again.
Okay. Malik, does the fact that you can't imagine something mean that that's the way it is?
Yes.
No. What is it possible?
If I cannot imagine something. If I cannot imagine something happening from nothing, that means someone behind the existence of this
it doesn't.
universe.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. No, it fucking doesn't. The fact that you can't imagine anything, something, tells you nothing about it. I have to take a call.
Yeah, Malik or Malik, however it's pronounced. This was the point I was making earlier about you need to look up argument from incredulity. It's a very common fallacy. It's one that a lot of people sort of feel like, if this escapes my ability to comprehend or imagine, then it is most likely the case that it isn't true or it is true. And so you're hitting this argument from incredulity again, and that is a fallacious way to think. But I guess what I'm more interested in now, Malik, because I think we're not going to make it further until you read, probably in Arabic, about what arguments from incredulity are, why they're fallacies, all of that. I'm more interested. Let's just say, let's just pop past it. Let's just jump past it and say, let's say that I decide to cede the argument to you and say, okay, some creator probably does exist based on this argument. Again, I don't feel this way, but let's say that we decided to jump past. Why Islam? Why Allah? Why the belief system that, the thing with the claim that the moon was broken into two and the winged horse took Muhammad away. What about Islam do you feel points to Islam being true?
The instructions in Quran.
There are instructions in lots of books, right? The Bible has instructions, but you've determined, so I'm not asking what you like about it or what you follow. What about those instructions? What about the Quran makes you believe that Islam is true?
Because I believe when I read the Quran, it has the right instructions for the world to be built up in a proper way.
Okay, so Christians believe when they read the Bible that the Bible contains the correct instructions for the world to exist in the best way. I think that's roughly what you said. So let's say one of you is correct or both of you are wrong. How would we determine who's correct or if you're both wrong?
The experience in this world, the new world now. For example, the Bible has I think the age of world is 6,000 years, which is now we know with the cosmology is not true.
Right. The Bible Quran, actually, so look, hang on, Malik. The Bible doesn't directly say that the world is 6,000 years old. There are people who do math, and there are young earth creationists who, on the basis of the timelines of when certain events were supposed to be happen, how old certain characters were, there are young earth creationists who believe it adds up to somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 years. There are also many, many Christians out there who do not believe that, who believe that the world is much older. There are Christians who even accept evolution. The Quran, as far as I know, does not establish evolution, which is a demonstrated fact. But on top of that, similar to your claim that the Bible has incorrect physical facts, like the age of the universe, the Quran has incorrect facts, such as the about the planet and the firmament, as well as things like sperm comes from the spine. So in the same way that you're pointing at them and saying the interpretations of these words are wrong based on what I'm saying, and these ones and ours are right, both of you can do it all day long. So I'm asking you for some exclusive evidence that points to the Quran is true, Islam is true, Allah exists, and it has to be the kind of evidence that a Christian can't use for their book, because Christianity and Islam cannot be true at the same time.
Yes, I cannot believe the instructions or the thoughts or the concept in the Bible. For example, God in three persons. I cannot believe God must be only one.
You're talking about the Bible now. I'm asking you, how do you know the Quran is true? And give me evidence that the Bible can't.
I can't find mistakes in Quran.
You can't find mistakes in the Quran. So,
no,
so what about that? What about the claim that sperm comes from the spine?
I would say that is not correct interpretation.
Even though it was the accepted interpretation for years and years and years, until science proved it wasn't true, and now they say, well, that's not the correct interpretation. In fact, it was what Muhammad was getting at with it. But now we're changing the interpretation because modern science catches up. But here's the other thing, Malik. What if I wrote a book and all I put in that book were true things? And then when I got done with putting the only true things, I then wrote a bunch of statements that were unprovable about, let's say, fairies, the purple Skittle fairies. So let's say I've written a book and it's just fact after fact after fact after fact, nothing but facts until I get to the undetectable purple fairies that create Skittles. Is the fact that everything else in the book is true, does that mean the purple fairy part is true?
I will believe you until proving the opposite.
And that is where we differ, because I can do that right now. I could literally write, 50 facts and then the fairy thing. And you would believe the fairies?
I would believe it until proven the opposite. However, Matt,
no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Malik, no, you would not. I'll do it right now. You said if I write a book, I've got an empty book right here, white pages. I'm going to write facts. The sky is blue. I've written one. Water is not itself wet. Water is not wet. That's also a fact. That one's kind of for fun.
How come water is not
hang on.
Wet?
See.
My shirt is black. My hoodie is yellow, because now I'm adding historical facts so that I can be just like it. My jacket is blue. Okay, I've got 3 facts on here. And now I'm going to add the 4th. Purple, undetectable fairies make Skittles. This book now exists, and it only has facts plus unprovable things. And you told me that if I wrote this book, I'm showing it on air if you need proof of it, that if I wrote this book and that if everything else in it was a fact, that the thing that was unprovable, you would believe until proven false. So, Malik, do you now believe that purple fairies, which make Skittles and are undetectable, exist?
Yes, Jimmy, but it's not this way. The instruction in Quran talk about
Malik. Hang on.
How to do things.
Did you just say yes or no?
Yes, but
You do believe in the purple fairies now?
Until proven the opposite.
That's insane. No, you don't. I'm sorry. I don't even know how to engage with this. There is no way that you now believe purple undetectable fairies create Skittles because I wrote 3 to 5 facts. I don't even remember 3 to 5 facts and then wrote that it was true. You're sitting here saying you're trying to be logical. You're trying to be reasonable, that you would observe a claim and apply logic to figure out if a claim is true. And then you have just now committed the fallacy of saying, if it hasn't been disproven, then I will accept that it is true, as though it has been proven. And skepticism, my friend, is the opposite. You do not accept something until there is a reason, until that belief is warranted, and you try to filter out as many untrue things as you can. It's both at the same time.
Okay, what are you saying is that a normal person will not believe a thing until he see the evidence.
No, I don't.
Right?
I don't say that. A normal person absolutely will believe things unwarranted.
I mean, the skeptic one who would say, I wouldn't believe anything until I see the evidence.
A person who is a skeptic would withhold belief until that belief is warranted.
Why are you coming back with this, Malik? He's only talking about what you've said Malik. He was only talking about what you've said you would believe. It doesn't make any difference what somebody else would believe. The issue is whether or not beliefs are rationally justified. If you're saying that you would believe anything that hasn't been disproven, then you no longer care about rational justification.
In physical world, I will not believe anything until I see the evidence. But in something behind the physical world, if there is no evidence, if I don't know about something, that doesn't mean it does not exist.
Correct, but it doesn't mean that it does. So until you can tell the difference, you can't believe that it does.
Exactly. That's why.
Not exactly. That's the opposite of
you
what
don't
you
get
said.
To say exactly. Okay.
At
well,
the beginning, I said it's
congratulations
for someone to not believe.
Congratulations on your new atheist position, then.
Yeah, Malik. I think genuinely, argument from incredulity. You've got to learn and internalize that. And at this point, we're 25 minutes in, and we keep just looping back to the beginning of the thing.
Okay.
Perhaps, hang on.
Waste your time.
I don't think you're a waste of time. I hope you keep engaging, but I think that there are specific things here that are missing that need to happen before we engage again. So I don't want you to feel like I'm just trying to brush you off. I also want to encourage you to go back and watch your own call again and see what statements you agreed with and disagreed with, and see if you can figure out which ones were mistakes, again, because of language barrier, and then which ones you can justify or defend in the future. Because you actually told me you now believe in purple fairies that create Skittles. Not that you don't know if they exist. You said you now believe in them.
Those purple fairies want you to pray to them, and they want you to send me $5,000.
Yeah.
If it's a physical world, I cannot believe, but I cannot deny.
Okay, hang on. I'll add this to the list. It's not physical. They killed Allah. Allah is now dead, and upon what you said, based on what you said,
Allah is the God. He must be alive.
No, he got killed. He got killed by these fairies. He was murdered by them, and you can't disprove that they didn't. And you said you will accept the belief until it is disproven. These purple fairies have Allah killing powers. You now, if you are consistent, believe Allah is dead.
Unless killing the God must exist all the time.
No, not anymore. The purple fairies killed it.
Are you saying that God could God stop existing if he wanted to?
This is not a question that I can answer.
Why can't you answer it? If you can't answer it, then the only thing that matters is it's in Jimmy's list. And as long as Jimmy's list says God can stop existing if he wants to, and God stopped existing when the fairies asked him to, and that's why we describe it as the fairies killed God, then Allah ceased to exist voluntarily at the request of fairies. It's all there in Jimmy's book. You have to believe it until you can prove it false, right?
Maybe that's what I said, but really, it's not what I meant.
But as a religious person, you're not going to stick to it.
For example,
Malik, go. No.
So that means you're not going to be honest.
Just
Malik, I'll let you do the one more thing if it's a wrap up, but we're moving on. Go back and watch the call again. If you want to say a final thought, we're not going to respond to it, but you can give a final thought.
Okay, I will try later.
Thank you.
I'll come back later. Thank you.
Argument from incredulity. We'll see about it.
Next time, if you come in and you say things that you don't mean, I'm going to call you a liar.
I've muted. I can unmute.
It's fine.
Okay.
It's just, let it go. If we spend 28 minutes in a phone call trying to get to some understanding through a language barrier and through just general confusion about this stuff, and then we get you to acknowledge a point, and then you find out that point undermines everything you were going to say and therefore makes what you said unreasonable. If you come back with well, that may be what I said, but that's not what I meant. Okay. I don't believe you. I think maybe you should take some more time to think before you talk next time.
Yeah. I'm going to take this just because they've been waiting a while. We're going to make it extremely fast. And a reminder to Terry, but also people who are listening, generally, if you're calling in as an atheist, it needs to be with a question or a challenge. We don't allow people to just call in and sort of monologue about whatever's on their mind. So Terry, it says here you want to talk about an archbishop in the UK. Is there a question you have for us about the bishop, or you're just wanting to kind of share some news?
Well, yes. No, I do have a question. Quickly, nice to talk to you both, Matt and Jimmy.
Good to meet you, Terry.
And if I could just before I ask my question, I'd just like to say I was fortunate enough to see you, Matt, at Cambridge University. You did a and magic show there, which was great. So just thought I'd mention
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Cheers.
I was happy to do it.
Yeah, no, I am an atheist, so I won't try and take up too much of your time. But you're probably familiar with the name Justin Welby, who's the Archbishop of Canterbury here in the UK. So apart from the King, he's the head of the church.
Right.
And I've heard him interviewed. He was interviewed by Alistair Campbell, who was Tony Blair's spin doctor. And Alistair Campbell, for all his faults, is an atheist. And in his interview with the Archbishop, who, in my cynical view, thought when he attended the Queen's funeral, he was using it as a marketing exercise, but that's another topic.
Yeah, let's just get to the point here.
Interview,
thanks.
Alistair Campbell said, listen, Archbishop, I don't do God. And Justin Welby immediately said, yes, but God does you. And I've also heard him promoting an app, I think it's called Soul Time, which to get the good prayers you have to pay for, by the way. But he said the same thing on that. If somebody says to him, I don't do God, he always says, yes, but God does you, which I think is a stupid thing to say. But I just wondered, how would you respond to the Archbishop if he said that to you?
You have exactly as much evidence for that as any other bollocks you've said.
This is no different than people who say, well, you'll see when we're dead. Like, cool. Yep. All you've just spat are words. You haven't proven anything. It's the type of thing that in church, people hear stories of other people. And like, and then I said, well, God does you. And the atheist fell to his knees and cried. And that shit doesn't happen. Or if it does, there's other problems going on. It's identical to that kind of thing. And I would go, I'd probably make a joke about the phrasing. God does me. I'd have said for $60 he can, or something. But it's not an impressive argument.
No, I suppose. I mean, he has to. Yeah. I mean, he's married. He's got 6 kids, hasn't he? Yeah. It just makes me laugh. And the Pope sits there and he's got no kids. Anyhow, guys, appreciate that. I won't take up any more of your time.
Yeah. Cheers, Jay.
Thanks.
Okay, have a good night. I thoroughly enjoy it, guys. Keep it up. I don't know how you put up with the nonsense.
Appreciate it.
Anyhow,
lots of drugs.
Guys.
Cheers, Jerry.
Cheers.
I think the headline of today's episode is everyone found out how cheap Jimmy is. $60. Moving on, Warren in Iowa, my condolences. Warren in Iowa, you are on the line with Jimmy and Matt, who will first ask you to please turn off the speakerphone, or it seems like you already fixed it. Warren, how are you?
Hi, how's it going?
Peachy.
Good.
Okay. First of all, trying to figure out how to start this. My dad was a Baptist preacher from a week old until I turned 18. I went to church, Baptist church, every Sunday, Wednesday, twice on Sunday. Recently, I saw an article about Noah's Ark, and I started searching for stuff about it, and I came across videos about how Noah's Ark never actually happened, and so that kind of shook me up. I continued searching it. I found all kinds of videos from Aron Ra. Matt has talked about it a few times, and pretty much after that I binged on a lot of videos, and my whole Christianity has unraveled to where, I just can't believe any of it anymore. And it's kind of a shock because that's how I grew up, believing all this stuff. And then going back and watching debates and watching preachers give their side, it's almost to the point where what they're saying is sickening, because now I'm picking up on their lies. So it's my main concern, though, that is the afterlife, which I know with evolution there is no afterlife, but that part still bothers me because going to the church every other Sunday was fire and brimstone Sunday, and they talk about you're going to burn in hell and all that. And so, that's kind of where I'm at.
So is it that you're trying to communicate that the thing that is still holding you in is an inability to accept that there might not be an afterlife?
I'm kind of holding on that there might be an afterlife.
And it's specifically the Christian one, or that you're hoping to come up with a different one?
No, Christian.
Yeah.
Christian afterlife. Yeah.
So, Warren, the honest answer, that's the short first answer, is this is a part of deconstructing, and you'll probably get past it. And so as far as challenging it, you're going to hear the normal challenges. What good reason do you have to believe that there is? And at the end of the day, the answer is you don't have a good reason to believe that there's an afterlife. You're just very, very attached to the idea that there is. And that's understandable. The concept of non-existence is a scary one. It's one that isn't particularly comfortable. It seems to be one that people become more comfortable with as they get older, as their body breaks down, as they feel sicker. But that's not everybody. And truly, there are lots and lots of people who don't want to die, are afraid of dying, and don't like the idea of not existing. So
I've gone through that whole process too of once I die, that's it. everything I know now will be gone. And that doesn't really bother me. But it's the thought of, once I die, if I didn't do everything God said, then I'm going to be in this eternal hellfire.
So you're talking about more that the conditioning, the fear response that you were conditioned with to not believing could be the consequence of God. I got it. Warren, how many non-Christian hells are you afraid of?
I don't know of any other non-Christian hells.
What about, are you afraid of going to Muslim hell for being an infidel?
No. There is no Muslim hell.
Why not?
Because our God made one heaven, one earth, one hell. He casts the demons into the one hell.
Right, but
that's where everyone goes.
Warren, I'm not talking about what does your old religion believe. You've been talking about how you've been deconstructing it, and you now understand how the Christianity is. Well, it sounds like you're at least entertaining that Christianity isn't true. So if you're saying Muslim hell doesn't exist because Christianity is true, then the next question's going to be prove Christianity true. But I don't think that you are trying to defend Christianity anymore.
Yeah, if you toss Christianity out, you don't get to use Christianity as your reason for not believing in a Muslim hell. You need some other hell, some other reason. Sorry.
So there's got to be like a all others hell.
No, I mean,
I see what you're saying.
What it is there's a bunch of different religions that are going to make claims about an afterlife. You were involved in one for a number of years. You're finding potentially your way out of it. And so, okay, now the question is, what other hells are you afraid of? Well, if you say none because the Christian one's real, then you're still involved in the Christian one. But if you say, I don't believe the Christian one's real, or I don't have good reason to believe the Christian one's real. Okay, what do you think about any of these others? Well, I don't have any reason to believe they're real either. It's a lengthy process finding your way out of years of indoctrination and of believing the claims because everybody around you believes it. I mean, I've stood in church. I've stood there in the pews and in the pulpit, and this is not something just for a lot of people. It's easy to get rid of. And so the thing first of all, if nothing else, I'd recommend recoveringfromreligion.org, reaching out to them. That's the primary reason they exist. There's people to talk to and everything else that can go into more detail than we're going to be able to do on one show. But if you're finding, I'll tell you a story real quickly. I've met atheists who've been atheists for 50 years who still wake up in the middle of the night from a nightmare about going to hell. But the reason they're still waking up from that nightmare, once they wake up, they realize, wow, that's so weird that it bugs me because I don't believe that. Just like I know people who can't watch The Exorcist, even though they're atheists and don't believe in demons. There are plenty of scary movies. These things prey on the myths that we've learned from religion and the fears that we have just in general of being alone, of being separated from the people that love us, of being attacked by something that we can't see or interact with, of our fears of a rustling wind in the trees. Is that a predator? Is that just wind? And so all of these things are about real fears, but they're being used in a way to get you to accept something that benefits somebody else because the church makes money. If you're anything like me, the amount of money you've donated to the church over the years is non-trivial. And then now you've got a potential sunk cost fallacy there. But what I can say is I didn't suffer from a fear of hell. I almost never did because I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 and accepted Jesus into my heart. And that was the last concern I ever had about a hell because I was convinced I wasn't going, And when I finally deconstructed and found my way out of Christianity, it basically my head went back to so the hell that I haven't been afraid of going to, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm going to that? And then I realized really quickly, I don't have any reason to think that it's real. And so for me, the fear just vanished. I still have other fears, and some of them are probably irrational as well. Can't promise it's going to go away or go anytime soon, but I'd recommend Recovering from Religion. I'd recommend the Secular Therapy Project. But the big thing is to realize that even if you're not really convinced there's a God anymore, there's still a lot that was done to you by you, in addition to the people around you and your pastors and parents and anybody else. There's a lot there to unpack, and it's going to take some time.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the movie. It came out in like 1972. It was called A Thief in the Night. Some people might have heard of it. It was a really scary Christian music. What's going to happen to you once the rapture happens and all that.
Yep.
And you don't want to be left behind. We used to have to watch that like once a year at church and pretty much scare us into Christianity.
Yeah.
So that had a lot of effect on me.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it in many years. Maybe we should do a watch party. That's from 72. So yeah, it's not, I was talking about Jimmy and I maybe doing a watch party on it. Because that's from 72. But yeah, I remember Thief in the Night. I remember watching that. I think that one, we might not have only watched it at church. I might have also watched it at school. But I can't say that for sure.
Yeah, that one really, it's a scary movie to a 8-9-year-old kid. That's
Warren, which sect of Christianity were you?
Baptist.
Okay. Which kind of Baptist?
The ones that played softball better than the Pentecostals, if he's worth a damn.
Oh, geez.
Were you Southern Baptist?
No.
Okay. So you weren't Southern Baptist. Do you know the difference between a Southern Baptist and other Baptists?
Yeah.
Southern Baptists are going to heaven?
Regular Baptist churches is what we were.
So so the reason why I brought up that joke is just as obviously talk to RFR, all of that was great advice, but it really is one of those things where one of the best things you can do when you're facing these fears is just ask yourself questions to sort of rewire your thinking. It's kind of a method of cognitive behavioral therapy, but literally like, it's not even just that you are afraid of Christian hell. You're not even afraid of Christian hell. You're afraid of the version of Christian hell you are raised with. You aren't particularly worried that you're going to go to Southern Baptist hell, right?
No.
You're not worried you're going to Catholic purgatory or Catholic hell, right?
Yeah, there is no other hell, just one Christianity hell that we knew about.
Right, but all the different Christians have their own version of who's going, right? And so Southern Baptists believe you're going, but you're not particularly worried about the fact that Southern Baptists believe you're going. You're not particularly worried about any of the other versions. You're worried about either the one or more of a broad abstract concept of that there's some God out there and whatever religion he's with, if I don't believe in at least him a little bit, I'm going to go to hell, which is sort of a common one that it's kind of like how people often stop away from deism too.
Right. I've been watching you guys, a lot of your call-in shows, and hearing you guys say, give me proof that there is a God. That's what really got me to thinking. And I'd spend like a week, okay, there's got to be proof that there's a God. And then I got to thinking, well, it's been, 6,000 years for some people, 4.5 billion years for other people that this planet has been here, and up to this point nobody has ever found proof of God. How are we going to find it? So there is no God. So there can't be a hell.
Yeah, there's no good reason to believe there's a God, and there's certainly no good reason to believe there's a hell. And there's lots of good reasons to believe that the gods you have been presented with don't exist, and that hell is an invention of humans as a tactic for control, and therefore likely doesn't exist either. But I don't rule any of them out. Well, I shouldn't say I don't rule any of them out. I don't rule out the possibility of a God. I don't even rule out the possibility of some kind of hell. That said,
there's just no proof of it.
I don't know that we're not living in it right now. Donald Trump might be president again. Okay, people.
Oh, this is hell.
I'm just kidding. It's a joke. It's a joke. Don't Don't latch onto that too hard. There are people who genuinely believe that. But anyway,
I'm a Republican, and I do consider that to be hell if he's president again.
And Warren, I'll tell you, that might also be a phase in your deconstruction process. Don't be afraid to allow yourself to rethink political positions, because so much of the Republican, yes, exactly, for sure. So much of the Republican platform is God exists and Christianity is true. Therefore, these are the values we espouse. I'm just saying, don't limit yourself.
I see what you're cooking, and it's not Skittles.
It might be. It might be.
I don't know. Those purple fairies.
That's right. Undetectable purple fairies. It's weird. They have a color but are undetectable. Nobody pointed that out. Anyway, Warren.
Hey, best bits of advice, in addition to, check out Recovering from Religion and Psychotherapy Project. Find some people around you to talk to who are going through something similar. You don't have to jump in and say, "Ooh, I'm an atheist now," or "Ooh, there is no God," or "Oh, I'm convinced of this," or anything else. You have a lot to potentially unpack. You could become reconvinced or find better evidence or find something that we missed or anything else. Just don't beat yourself up too much. Give yourself permission to explore honestly, because if in fact there is a God who would punish you for honestly asking questions and having a difficult time coming up with really good answers in the world that God supposedly created, then that God's a monster. Because if you created all this and you wanted people to think and explore, and you gave them a brain and they were asking questions and you were not giving them any answers, you weren't helping them out, you weren't, providing anything at all as a way to test or confirm any of this, then you're kind of a crappy God. And I mean, a God like that could exist and punish and torture me forever, but he certainly won't be a good God, and he certainly wouldn't be worthy of anybody's respect or admiration.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm kind of realizing how, I'm not going to say evil, but how, I'll just leave it at that.
No worries.
Yeah, that's awesome. A pain.
Yeah.
We hope to hear from you in the future, Warren. Keep us in the loop.
All righty. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, Warren.
Sure.
Bye.
See you.
It's funny because it's one of those things when people call in the position Warren's in, and we've gotten other calls like it. I always feel that combination of like the excitement for the future and like, oh, you're going to hit the day where you feel like you've met yourself, you're living for yourself. You get to pick your own sense of purpose, and you're going to feel so free in a time pretty soon. But I also feel extremely anxious because before that's going to be a lot of bullshit. And for a lot of people, leaving religion is a very traumatic experience. And so hence the resources Matt shared and everything, because it's definitely, it's tough, but what's that fake verse that people always say is in the Bible that's not in the Bible? I never said it would be easy. I only said it would be worth it. Have you heard that or seen that written places? Yeah, there's Christians claim that that's a Bible verse, and it's not. I never said it would be easy. I only said it'd be worth it. And then it always says like God. God said that. Anyway, leaving religion isn't easy, but it's worth it. Let's talk to... Is that the same one from earlier? And I'll figure it out later. Norbert in Pennsylvania. Norbert, you're on the line with Jimmy and Matt.
Greetings. Yeah, so my original topic was the mathematical principles of Cabala and why that proves it's true. But yeah, that's just kind of what I want to get into today.
I don't understand. You said your original topic was to prove that Cabala is true using math, but
yes.
But what? What was after the but?
Because I had technical difficulties and I had to recall just because my mic wasn't working.
Oh yeah, yeah. I see those notes. So you have mathematical proof of the truth of Cabala.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you going to offer it? And
do you want me to do it?
Yeah, so when you say Cabala is true, we're talking about starting off. It is an Abrahamic, Jewish, mystical belief system, right?
Yes.
Is there any specific thing you want to specify about when you say you accept Cabala, you accept what?
I guess I just accept their belief system, where we came about, what our creator is, how we can gain a connection with our creator.
So let's do that and then do the mathematical proof. Let's just answer the one thing you just said. You said it explains what our creator is. So what is our creator according to Cabala?
The thing that created us as humans.
I understood what the word creator means. We can't say that Cabala is the thing that created us. Otherwise, I could say my mother is Cabala. So be a little bit more specific as I be a little bit more pedantic here. What specifically? Give us the mystical qualities. It's a mystical tradition. So give us the mystical qualities of this God.
I mean, created the universe.
Okay.
Has effect on our day-to-day life. Can make events happen in our day-to-day life. Basically just controls everything about the reality that we live in.
Controls everything about reality? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
He's controlling what I say right now?
That was my...
In a way, yeah.
Cool.
I
say that Cabala is absolute nonsense, and if our creator has guided me to say that, does that make that true?
Well, no, but that's the path that you've chosen. The creator may have guided you towards one way or another, but that's...
So he doesn't control.
You just acknowledge that the creator controls everything.
Right.
Yeah, the creator is not going to force you to believe something, but it can.
This wasn't about you. You said the creator controls everything.
Yeah.
Was that
okay,
Norbert? Was that a poor choice of words?
Yeah,
if the creator controls everything, if the creator controls everything, including what I say, then when I say it, it must be what the creator said, right? Or am I more powerful than the creator?
He did just accept when I asked him that it was a poor choice of words on his part. Control was a poor choice of words, correct, Norbert?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's what word is better? Guide? He guides us?
Yeah.
Okay.
Guide and influence.
Matt, do you have a different version of the question with guide in it?
Okay, how do you demonstrate that the creator guides everything?
Because when you begin to follow Cabala, then you see positive changes in your life that you would not have otherwise seen.
No. So first of all, you don't know what you would or wouldn't have otherwise seen. But second of all, positive changes happen in people's life when they're involved in all kinds of things which don't in any way demonstrate the truth of the religion that they're following. You could join a religion, see positive changes, and that doesn't prove that the religion's true.
Right. This is the defense for Mormonism. In fact, it's one of the key things that you are taught when you are taught how to teach people Mormonism. Tell them about the changes that they're going to have. Tell them about the changes in your life that it's made. And not only that, Norbert, maybe this is your first time watching. I don't think you'd even have to watch an entire month of shows. I imagine within the last couple of weeks, and I wasn't even here to see them, there's going to be some caller who said, I know God's true, God exists because my life changed so much when I started believing. We've had a lot of fallacies today, and the one that you're appealing to right now is called confirmation bias. It's not a fallacy in arguments. Well, it can be. But anyway, confirmation bias is essentially you see affirmation of what you're looking for, and you dismiss the things that are non-affirming. And confirmation bias is universal to religion. It's super important, especially for people who, these Holy Ghost types of religion, God's interacting with you in the way you were talking about, that God is guiding you kind of stuff. It's as soon as you decide that's happening, you start to see his hand in all things, except for the things that would undermine it. So anyway, you say you have mathematical proof. You can demonstrate mathematically the principles of Kabbalah as true.
Yeah. If I could just touch back on the previous point, the positive experiences aren't like generic positive experiences. They're more like you begin to get a more fundamental understanding of the universe, and you don't see things you haven't seen before.
That's still
how
Mormonism.
do you demonstrate? How do you demonstrate that you have a more fundamental understanding of the universe?
Well, it's something that you can't explain. It's more like
it's something. It's something you can't explain. You can't explain it because it's just something
If you have a better understanding of the universe, you don't get to say you can't explain it. Because if the point of you saying is, hey, I know Kabbalah is true because I have a better understanding of the universe, then you better get to splaining, Lucy, because you don't get to just say, well, you might as well be saying, I just believe it.
Exactly. Which is exactly what it is. In fact, hang on, Norbert. Let's just do this. A simple exercise. Before you accepted Kabbalah, you had some understanding of the universe. Now that you've accepted it, you've indicated that you now have a greater understanding of the universe. What is one thing that you did not understand about the universe that you now do understand, which you can also demonstrate is true and not just a belief you've accepted in your heart?
Okay, I'll give you an example right now.
Go ahead.
Before, I looked at a cube and I saw a cube, right? Now when I look at a cube, I see the math underlying the cube. I see the area of the cube, the volume of the cube, and just like the formulas that you would need to actually prove that.
So you learned some math.
Geometry.
I was literally going to say, you've learned some math. You learned that math because you accepted Kabbalah and you intuited it, or you then read about how to get, first of all, you only get the area of the faces of a cube. You don't get, there's no such thing as an area of a cube. There's volume of a cube, but there's not area. So you learned how to do math principles just by accepting Kabbalah, not by then learning how to measure, for example, the volume of a cube, correct?
No, I already knew these things before, but after I've researched Kabbalah, I've been able to see these things without thinking about it, without having math problem prompt me.
Bro, wait until you try LSD. It's going to blow your fucking mind. What's your mathematical proof of Kabbalah?
Okay, yeah. So this is actually a research paper online. It's called On the Mathematical Principles of Kabbalah.
Okay,
I don't care.
So to be clear, you don't have a proof of Kabbalah. You have a research paper of somebody else claiming to have a proof of Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And you've accepted its conclusion without actually being able to demonstrate its conclusion is correct. Yes?
Yes, but it's been peer reviewed. So other people have demonstrated that it's correct.
Other people demonstrating it is correct isn't the same as peer review. Because there's
What's the name of the paper?
On the mathematical what?
On the Mathematical Principles of Kabbalah by John Smith.
By John Smith.
Yep. Are you guys looking that up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's hard to explain because I don't actually fundamentally grasp a lot of the concepts.
I thought you gained a fundamentally better understanding of reality. Why wouldn't you ask the creator to help you understand this?
Well, in Kabbalah, we have a ladder of understanding. I'm not very familiar with that ladder. I have my foot on the first rung, maybe a little farther than that.
How do you know?
There are 400 rungs of this ladder.
How do you know? How do you know that you have your foot on the first rung?
This is so
because I begin to see these mathematical properties exist in
you can't even get it right whether there's an area or volume of a cube. What new understanding? What new understanding do you have that you didn't have before?
I mean, I understand that mathematical properties apply to physical objects, and they're not just conceptual things, that they actually...
Well, congratulations. I've understood that mathematical principles apply to objects for almost the entirety of my life, and I didn't have to fucking study any Kabbalah.
with zero religious appeal. The understanding, math is something we recognize. We go out and we identify it. So for you to sit here and go, I realize that cubes really are made up of 90-degree angles. I realize that the volume really is length times width times height. What did you think before Cabala? Scientists were like, we don't have any reason to believe this, but here's a bunch of formulas we thought we'd throw your way to make 7th grade unpleasant.
I don't see any place where this is peer reviewed.
The fact that like these mathematical principles are applying in real life and they can be used to predict things as well.
Name one journal. Name one journal that peer reviewed on the mathematical principles.
So if you're just, I've seen the movie Pi. So if you're just fucking with me, I'm going to know. What does it predict?
Pi? Wait,
you've never seen the movie Pi?
No.
You need to go watch it right now. It's about someone losing their mind while studying Cabala.
Really?
Yes.
That sounds interesting.
Hey, Norbert, yes. name one journal, scientific journal which peer reviewed on the mathematical principles of Cabala.
I'm not sure.
Well, why did you claim it was peer reviewed if you didn't actually know that that was true?
I'm sitting here looking at it.
Has a research paper published, it needs to be peer reviewed.
Nope. For a research paper to be published, it needs to be peer reviewed on the internet.
It needs a website.
Is this your first day on the internet, Norbert? What the fuck? I don't know whether this is a serious call anymore. Like, I genuinely think you might be serious, but you're just self-involved, self-flating. You smoked some weed and you're like, bro, but the angles, they're there. It almost sounds like a shittier, a poor man's version of the fine-tuning argument. Now I really understand fundamentally that 1 + 1 = 2, but it doesn't just equal 2, it equals 2. That's what this reeks of, man. And I don't know how to take you seriously because you're either a troll calling about a research paper that I don't actually think you could tell us much about because you've already preempted that you're only on the first rung. You've claimed it was peer-reviewed. You said cubes have areas. You're just saying words that sound associated. I don't know whether you're serious or just masturbatory.
I have questions.
Having area thing, I meant the area of the faces. Obviously, I don't.
How many rungs? How many rungs are on the ladder? How many rungs are on the ladder?
Like around 432.
400 around 432. This is all about math, and you're going to approximate the number of rungs?
And he might be above the first rung, is what he said. Call us when you get to 200.
No, I'm definitely above the first rung. I don't know how far exactly I am, because obviously there's no way to quantify it. But every time
at what point, Norbert, at what point on the ladder would you be able to explain this to us?
You would probably have to be pretty high up there because these are the foundational mathematical principles of
so I'm saying at what rung of the ladder would you be capable of actually answering our questions?
What question have you asked? I feel like I've answered all your questions.
What is your new improved understanding of reality? At what point on the ladder can you answer that?
Okay, I got you. I don't know. I don't think I would ever be able to because it's a personal experience.
That's really fucking convenient.
It's a personal experience.
Guess I'm going to use your same answer to answer the question, when will you be able to talk to Norbert again? I don't think I'm ever going to be able to talk to Norbert again.
Norbert, this is nuts, man. I'm
not trying to be rude, and you guys.
I am trying to be rude. I am trying to be rude and tell you that just try regular masturbation because your mental masturbation is impeding your ability to not be a ridiculous person and have a delightful day. Go ahead.
It's fine.
Are you reading a document or not?
Fuck no.
Norbert, I don't have time to go through a paper that's not even fucking peer reviewed that you don't seem to know anything about. While you blather on about how you've gained a new enlightenment about reality, but you can't actually tell us what it is or provide any evidence for it, and you can't really know. You got to be in it to know it, and you're only on like the first couple of rungs, but there's like 400 and some on 432 maybe, something like that. Have someone who's way fucking higher up on the ladder call and explain it, because you're not good at explaining it.
Norbert, how many rebuttals or sources challenging on the mathematical principles of Kabbalah have you consumed?
None.
Yeah, so you are a fucking intellectual fraud to suggest anybody. The fact that you don't even know what the challenges are to this thing that, again, you claim was peer reviewed and isn't, because you thought it had to be. No, there's no okay. We're not moving on. You're done. Go. I don't know. Just go. I don't have any particular advice. Goodbye. Fucking Christ.
It's one of those things where you can certainly feel like, hey, there's something really important here. You know, I've bought into some Jewish mysticism, and I've learned some things about math. And, you know, it reminds me of the people who don't know much about logic and then discover various paradoxes. The knowability paradox, which relates more to epistemology than it does to logic, or the Curry paradox, where I can create a logically valid argument that demonstrates literally anything just by saying, if this statement is true, then God exists. That statement proves God exists logically. Also, I can say, if this statement is true, then God does not exist. That statement proves that God does not exist. There's no flaw that's identifiable. This is one of the reasons why they call it a paradox. And if you're not equipped to understand that things like that happen, and if you're not equipped to understand that there are problems within mathematics, and we can do mathematical proofs for all kinds of things. We can do a mathematical proof for 2 = 1. And if you're not pretty good at math, you're going to have a difficult time finding where the error is. I'm not even sure if you showed me the proof that I could, I'm not a mathematician. I know I've studied it before. I know there's an error there, but I don't know that I would be able to say, yes, the error is here, because that's not my field, but somebody could. But there are other things where we don't have any way of demonstrating that. And if you are just now learning that math has some relation to physical reality, I mean, Sir Isaac Newton famously said that mathematics is the language with which God wrote the universe.
And
that doesn't
consumed
make
mercury.
it so.
Yeah, that's the two sides of Isaac Newton. Brilliant, but then he says the God stuff, and then he goes and he eats mercury.
He would have loved Cabala.
What he was explaining too about this fundamental whatever, this change, that specific thing, I almost got, I had a mathematics professor. I'm trying to remember what class it was. It doesn't really matter. But he liked to teach in a much more visual way and make sure that you understood a formula, sort of naturally understood it, as opposed to just memorizing it. So like the one example that I'm sure lots of people here have seen is he had a special device that had a right triangle on it. And there was an amount of liquid that would go on one side and an amount of liquid that go on the other side. So you'd have to turn it, basically a box, a square made out of each of the sides, and you'd fill it with liquid. And then you had a square that went along the hypotenuse that also was a perfect square. And he showed that when you turned it over, the exact amount of liquid that filled up the square for side A and filled up the square for side B, that the two of those combined, it was the exact same amount of liquid if you had a square made out of the hypotenuse. And it changed the way, yes, I know A squared plus B squared equals C squared, but now I know what it means. Now I understand why it works. And that was this like fundamental change in my understanding of mathematics. And now, as I'm a woodworker, I actually use equations and things like that I never thought I would. And some of them I don't actually have to write down. I just have an idea and a sort of almost abstract concept of, when I do this and this, I'm going to also have to do this and, this much to brace or whatever. And it doesn't even necessarily require exact measurements. In fact, a lot of times you don't take exact measurements. You literally just go over and squeeze it into place and then mark where the lines line up. I get feeling like you have had it revealed to you that there's a way to internalize mathematics differently, to think about it more abstractly. But my experience as a fucking woodworker or with this professor is a non-religious experience. and you putting it through the filter of your religious experience, which you are trying to find reasons to believe it is true and ignore reasons that it might not be, clearly, as he was practically bragging about the confirmation bias, is wholly unappealing to a person who's a skeptic. And you definitely did not call with mathematical proof of the mystical Jewish tradition of Kabbalah.
By the way, we should, you got a list of announcements before we go on to the next call?
Yeah, great week lined up. Skeptalk tomorrow is by Erica, aka Gutsick Gibbon, who will be joined. I had the list up. Will be joined by I just looked at the name. A very an up and coming nice lad. Fuck. Where is the All right, I'm just going to go to a new instance of it because in the amount of time it will be to find what tab on which screen it's on, I'll have it. And right now, this talking I'm doing is called Filling the Time. Okay, tomorrow is Erica. I didn't write it on the fucking thing. It's in my text messages with a skeptic guy, and they're doing Skeptalk together, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun and awesome. And his name is Gleason from a channel called Based Theory. On Tuesday, there won't be a show, but that might be the day I decide to do it because I wanna, because I'm real, especially now with the news of Ron DeSantis and everything. I've probably got things to complain about, though it could be that I just hold off for the sometime show and we do it on there. I don't know. Wednesday will be this guy, Matt Dillahunty, who will be joined by, it's not me, is it? By Brady Goodwin, Fanatic.
Yep.
Be Good. He also goes by. And this Thursday, which is a show I'm particularly excited for. I don't watch a lot of our shows because I'm producing so many, but I will watch when certain people are on. And Arden will be joined this Thursday on Transatlantic Call-In Show by Hannah from Hannah and Jake, Hannah Reloaded. That's going to be an exciting show that I'm definitely going to tune into. And hopefully the caller from earlier, I think was called Nate, will call in that day. That's what I got.
That sounds like a lot.
Yeah. Next Sunday, I won't be here. And I think I know who it'll be, but I'm waiting for confirmation of who will be there. I also think next Sunday we'll probably be doing a Zoom event in the evening with Shannon Q, but we're also putting all of the
sweet
P's and Q's on there. Yeah, Matt might join. I'm committing it for you. Feel like you'd enjoy watching
it depends on the date. I'm going to be doing some traveling. By the way, my apologies earlier for having to ditch out for a phone call, but that was an oral surgeon because I'm going to be heading out to get some oral surgery done in the very near future.
Yeah. I really hope it's not next Sunday since I can't be here next Sunday, and I hope one of us is here.
It'll be around it'll be February 9th, which is a Friday.
Next Sunday,
and I
still January.
think that I will be back by Sunday.
Cool. We're still in January next Sunday, so we're all good to go. January 28th, also a date that feels like I'm supposed to remember something, but I don't. I know one of my sister's birthdays is this week, but it's not today or the 28th. I don't know. Anyway, moving back along, we got a couple more calls to do before we call it a day. We've got Martin in Georgia. Martin, you're on the line with Jimmy and Matt.
Oh, hi. Awesome. Great to talk to you guys. I guess I can just go ahead to get started.
Yeah, it says here that you'd like to argue that there's a higher probability for there to be a God compared to any other explanation for existence. I'm curious, Martin, like I asked Khalid earlier, do you have a specific God or religious thing? You don't have to defend it necessarily, but is there a specific God you believe in?
Yeah, Allah.
You're a Muslim?
Cool. Yes.
Cool.
You're when you say probability, just so I'm clear, are you saying a calculable probability or like an approximation? Like I just think this is more likely.
I would say it's an approximation. I actually am calling back because you told me before I talked to you and Aron, you said rewatch the video. You asked me specific question I failed to answer. So I did want to like start off with that. It makes me like give you verifiable evidence that is there verifiable evidence to show that a God exists. And it was a yes or no question that I felt was like kind of difficult to answer yes or no. So I figured I would answer yes, but like just extrapolate on that point.
Cool.
I think you have to evaluate so many different factors. Do not just point toward the supernatural in itself, but with the combination of each of these factors, you can like deduce that it may be more likely than for there to be something as a God rather than there to be, you know, I guess just a naturalist perspective of nothing supernatural.
I'm going to stop and let you get started. We'll probably interrupt for clarity and everything else, but let me just say, if somebody said, hey man, I think I can demonstrate that it might be the case that maybe there's some possibility that there's something like a God and that might be more like, none of that is remotely impressive to me. And it's certainly not something that I could see advocating devoting one's life to, but make your case.
Oh yeah, I think that's fair. I would say, and it will go along all to my last point I would say, but okay, first is the like the essence of existence itself. I think that this is something we talked about before, but I think got lost in the weeds when talking to both of you guys. But it seems like you guys may agree that something has to be eternal, but may not have to specify what that thing is. But you also seem to, I guess, give the possibility that nothing is eternal, which I don't think, for me personally, doesn't seem like a rational possibility. And then consciousness in itself, our ability to understand what is, like what exists. And I think that its emergence points toward something that is like greater than our own consciousness. And then after like connecting these both existence and consciousness, and then like speaking to, I guess, personal experience, that I think will like can align together to make it like there is a probability for something being greater than what we can see like physically on an everyday basis by evaluating all of these things. And then I guess like
Martin, real quick,
testimony of others.
Like, because we said the clarifying thing, you're saying too that specifically this thing that has to be greater would also it would necessarily be supernatural, right? Because I believe in lots of things that are greater than us. I don't think you can escape physics, but you're saying even greater than physics, right?
Yeah, I think there's always something, and I don't want to like debate semantics. I don't mean by greater something like more substantial or something, but like what I mean by greater is probably like something that is so far further than our current understanding that we have to reach it in order to develop that understanding of that.
Okay, we still haven't escaped physics.
I don't know a better word than greater, but greater thing.
We still haven't escaped physics because there's still lots of questions about physics and tons of open questions still in physics that we won't know until we reach the answer. We don't know anything until we reach the answer. So I'm still unclear with it. It seems like you hold what everybody holds, the idea of there's more than what we understand. In fact, that's not even just a statement of angst. That's a demonstrative fact. We actually know a lot of the things we don't know. We know like what things haven't been answered, which mechanics. We don't know all of them, but we know a lot of we need to figure out this theory. We need a proof of the Goldbach conjecture, all these types of things. So we haven't escaped that yet, but you have a proposition that there is something greater than those things, and it is a God. and you seem to be relying on there's always going to be something greater. And yet, without you having said it yet, I'm positive when I ask you if there's anything greater than the God, suddenly your insistence there will always be something greater is going to go away. Then you're going to say no. Is that correct?
You are correct in that.
Right. So your statement that there's always something greater, you don't actually believe that. You do believe in a greatest thing, and that is the Islamic form of Allah. Yes?
Yes. Yeah. So there is a greatest thing. That would be correct.
Right. So you've appealed to the great feeling of there's always something greater. You've then admitted you don't even believe there's always something greater. You do believe in a greatest thing, but that humans have this feeling of when they look out at the universe, that they feel very small compared to the rest of the universe. You have not yet demonstrated a necessity for there to be that greatest thing, and that greatest thing would be a God, and you definitely haven't gotten close to the Muslim God.
Okay. So I think that's where I think you have to tie in the other things that we know about reality.
Sure. How about this? The story of Moses is untrue. We know that about reality. Now, go ahead and affirm the Muslim God with that.
Sorry, you're saying that. Okay, what part of the Moses part do you want me to explain?
No. You're saying when we look at other things about reality, you believe in the Muslim God. You're wanting to, I think, sort of abstractly.
He's not saying that any random fact affirms the Muslim God.
No. If we're evaluating the things we know about reality, to point to a God, he believes in a God, which the tradition of that God belief claims the reality of a certain historical event that didn't happen. So I'm trying to get him to reconcile these things at the same time. Do you want to give me the examples of the things that we know about reality that do point to the Muslim God? Because I can point to several that don't.
So, and I hate to give this explanation, but I think it's the one that's the most used. And just, I guess, in the religious and Muslim community is that the unexplainable things like the splitting of the Red Sea, for example, would be believed in by faith. But I don't like reasoning. So
accepting that Moses existed at all and led millions or thousands of Jews out of Egypt where they were enslaved for the building of things in Egypt, which some people believe were the pyramids, some people believe other stuff, is entirely a faith statement. That story didn't happen.
So, and I hate to say this as well, I think we also can't just say that we know it for a fact that it did not happen.
We can say it with as much confidence as anything that we know for a fact.
It has
So, realistically, I think we could agree, at least it's possible two people from Israel were enslaved in Egypt and traveled back to Israel.
That's not the story of Moses, and that's not the Exodus. The story of Moses and the Exodus has specific claims about specific people in specific places at specific times. The problem isn't just that, could it be possible that there were some Jews in Egypt at some point and maybe some Egyptians enslaved, which, by the way, the whole story of Jews being enslaved by Egyptians, while there are micro examples of that, is mostly just basically trying to bastardize Egyptian people in what might be humanity's earliest example of written racism. We also know, because of anthropology, what people were doing at that specific time and specific place, where Jews actually were, where Egyptians were, what level of slavery and who they enslaved, when they enslaved people. It's not just a matter of could it have happened there? It couldn't have. Unless God's out here changing anthropology to trick us like the Mormons believe.
No. I think from the Islamic view, we wouldn't say that the Exodus isn't explained in the Quran as it is in the Bible. And we wouldn't say that hundreds of thousands of Jews traveled north to go back to Israel. because of their enslavement. It doesn't even specify the size of a population, and it doesn't specify the number of days, how long, the way, besides the method that they got there. It doesn't go into detail as much. So
yeah, the Quran mentions it many, accepts it as a historical fact, as well as things like Noah's flood, as well as things like a literal Adam and Eve, as well as things like a literal Abraham, all fiction characters that many people in many religions have accepted are metaphors and are stories because all of them are essentially impossible. In Adam and Eve, it's not just essentially, and in Noah, it's not just essentially, demonstrably impossible. Abraham's the one you have the best chance at shedding any level of like, well, maybe there could be a one person that at around this time all Jews are related to and had that many kids and whatever. That's the best one you have a shot at, and even that one's not a very good shot. But anyway, you were going to tell us the things you know about. Why don't you focus on because the amount of time I could spend on why the Abrahamic religions are untrue is the rest of the year. And we're only in January. So instead, you said there are things about reality we know, which then affirm the Islamic God. Go for it. Share those things.
Okay. So I think we start off primarily with the fact that there is something that exists means that that thing, or we existing, the universe existing, is either eternal in itself or is brought on by something eternal. And then I think we go into an understanding of
how do you know that?
Being conscious. Sorry?
How do you know that? You said you gave two options. The universe is either eternal or was caused by something eternal.
Yes.
How do you know that?
And this is where I say the probable claim, because I don't, you could obviously claim that this is an argument from incredulity as well.
Then maybe don't bother making it, because I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
Why would you acknowledge you're about to make a fallacious argument and then make it?
That's why I'm trying to. I think
it's honest.
It's more so basic reasoning that, like, if I told you,
it's not basic reasoning to accept a fallacy. If you're going to be honest and say I'm about to make a fallacious argument, you should also then understand that the argument fails.
The correct position is that the correct. Hang on. What fucking planet am I on? A true dichotomy is that the universe is either eternal or it's not. When you say the universe is either eternal or brought on by something eternal, how did you rule out the possibility that the universe was brought on by something that wasn't eternal?
Well, then it would just be a nonstop, like.
That's not what I asked, Martin. You said either the universe is eternal or it was brought on by something eternal. First question that I have, and I have a follow-up. First question I have, and I have a follow-up, is how did you determine that the universe wasn't brought on by something that's not eternal?
Because the thing that is, if that thing was not eternal, then it would just be an infinite regression.
That's not a fucking response, Martin. Martin, you don't get to rule it out because it leads to an infinite regression. Because now your answer is either the universe is eternal, or it was brought on by something eternal, or was brought on by something else that leads to an infinite regression. So now you've got three. How did you rule out that the universe is eternal?
Yeah. So maybe I'm to be. How did I come about that the universe is not eternal? I guess if you're saying that it is eternal, the universe can be eternal. That's something I was claiming.
You have no idea. So here's the thing. You said either the universe is eternal or it was brought on by something eternal. Then I pointed out, well, how did you rule out that it wasn't brought on by something that's not eternal? Oh, because that would lead to an infinite regress. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. So now there's the universe is either eternal, or it was brought on by something eternal, or it was brought on by something that's not eternal that may or may not lead to an infinite regress. And then I asked, how did you rule out the proposition that the universe is itself eternal? How did you rule that out?
Yes, the universe itself can be eternal.
No, when I ask you how you fucking rule something out, you don't get to say that it can't be eternal. Okay, that can't be the answer. I just ruled out your answer, Martin, because that can't be the answer. How you like them apples?
It's worse. He said can after taking a different proposition. He didn't say can't. He said can.
So now you're saying the universe can be eternal and might not be eternal and might be caused by something that's eternal or might be caused by something that's not eternal that may or may not lead to an infinite regress. What the fuck are we playing at?
I guess just
those are the options.
So either the universe is itself, and I would say the universe, the multiverse, and everything that exists is eternal, or it was brought on by something.
He's already explained to you that that's not a dichotomy.
Martin, how are you going to
dichotomy?
How are you going to? I just gave you 4 fucking options to replace the 2, which you've already acknowledged. Hey, Martin, is the universe eternal or not?
Is it eternal or not? I think that goes into the probability. I think it's more probable it is not.
How do you determine that it's more probable that it's not? And by the way, if you're saying, what are you saying that you don't know whether the universe is eternal or not? Which is fine, because I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. I think.
Okay, cool. Martin, hang on. You don't know if the universe is eternal, and I don't know if the universe is eternal. If in fact the universe is eternal, then we're done. But we don't know. If the universe is not eternal, then we need some potential cause for that universe. What can you tell me about the type of thing that might qualify as the cause for a universe that's not eternal? Which feature?
I think it'd have to be. Sorry, but I think it would have to be anything. It have to be something outside of the universe.
So you're saying that whatever the cause is, it's not the universe itself.
If the universe is
you're really breaking up right now. We're having an audio issue where your line's breaking up.
Can you improve your signal? Get to a better place.
I don't know if you can.
It seems better already.
Hear me better now.
Go ahead.
Next to my. Okay. I would say. Okay. If you didn't, I don't know if you heard her first part, but the universe has to. Okay, something outside of the universe has to. Create the universe, to say, and then if the universe was eternal, at least something would set the universe into motion as we know it. And I think we can only evaluate what we do have in our existence as we see it.
Okay. If the universe is eternal, we're done. You don't need to posit some sort of explanation. But if the universe is not eternal, and you're saying that it had a beginning, and I asked, what can you tell me about whatever would account for that beginning? You are basically saying it's not the universe. It's something other than the universe that serves as the explanation for the universe, right?
Yes.
Do you know any other feature that you can confirm is a feature of that cause other than it's not the universe?
The other feature, I think, would have to be it has the capacity to create a universe.
So whatever caused the universe is capable of causing the universe. That's a tautology. I'm asking for features of that cause, not tautologies.
So I think the features of something, because of that cause, that feature has to have the power to create or to do something that gives us the degree of the universe as we have it. So that means the power of
you literally have just said exactly the same thing. You've said that whatever the cause of the universe is needs to be capable of causing a universe. And when I asked for features of that cause, you said it needs to have the power to create. But that's the same thing. It has it. The fact that it is capable of creating is what you're declaring is a feature, which is a tautology. What of the cause? What feature can we confirm?
It is existing outside of time.
How do you know that?
We can confirm that.
How do you know that? Because my understanding is that existence is necessarily temporal, and it's not possible for something to exist outside of time, because if there's no time, then it exists for no time, and the thing that exists for no time is identical to that which does not exist. But even I'll just grant you, let's say that whatever created the universe exists outside of time, even though that's a completely nonsense phrase. You have no way of confirming that, but what's another feature of this cause?
It can observe the universe as it.
No.
I would say.
Why is being able to observe the universe a feature of the cause?
I would say it was not able to see, or I don't want to use like human personable language, but
you are at every instance. The observe requires that something has the capacity to observe. That is an act of an agent. You got a long way to go to justify this.
And then once you get there, the thing that's blowing my mind about today is we're having person after person call in with a belief that is not deism, but they're basically trying to appeal to deistic arguments to then conclude when that's sort of their affirmation where they go, because this makes sense in my head, this arrangement of these, the words in this order, it all makes sense. This word problem, it all falls into place. And now I make the even larger leap to believing in Islam or Christianity or whatever. And it's even once you get past the gap, even if we did what Matt just did for you with one of your arguments and granted you this whole argument, you would then have even more work to prove the God for which there are actual claims about, there are actual features that are attributed to it. And it's a nonsense God. And so I keep getting like, I'm sure I look bored to people. I'm sure people are going to say I've been extra rude this episode. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of comments just about like, wow, what a jackass Jimmy was today. But it's like, we're sitting here trying to get you to understand you haven't demonstrated shit. You haven't shown that you have a basic understanding of shit. You've basically done poor man versions of William Lane Craig level apologetics, but for Islam instead of Christianity. And even if you got it all right, and we all came to the actual true position of, if that God exists, there's no way to know it exists. So let's go ahead and say that's what's true here. It's an undetectable God. If it exists, it's impossible to find out. Now defend Islam. The gap would be so much larger. And yet it seems to be this thing that you've called in to this show feeling you can stake your belief system on this thing you clearly don't understand. And you're making statements about existing outside of time. This episode, it's funny because we've had so many theists this time, and yet I think I'm more frustrated on this episode than ever. So Martin, do you have Matt, I shouldn't, that's rude to you. Matt, do you want to stay on this line of questioning and see if he has anything just to establish a God, or could we either decide to move on or ask Martin if he'd like to actually defend the actual God he believes in, which is Allah, which is nonsensically unrelated to actually the proposition I think he's defending right now?
I'd like to finish a particular line real quick.
Go ahead.
Which is, you're claiming that whatever caused the universe, when I'm asking for features of it, you list features that are essentially tautologies, that, well, it can't be the universe itself, and it needs to be capable of doing the very thing we're talking about. And the one feature that you kind of jumped in on there is that it has to be able to observe the universe. And the point I was making is that the second you say the cause can observe, you are anthropomorphizing the cause and giving it the features of an agent. Because, for example, if the cause of a fire in my house might be faulty wiring, but and obviously there's a lot that goes into it, but we could say, house fires are sometimes caused by faulty wiring. That wiring is a cause that does not have to observe anything. It has no capacity to observe. And so if you're going to go for, let me give you features of the cause of the universe, you have to be very careful, because the second you inject causes or inject features that are synonymous with or imply that it is a thinking agent, that's where you're smuggling God in. Because the whole point is to say, is it possible that there's some causal explanation for the universe that does not require a thinking agent? And your answer seems to be no. I want to know why.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point. My thinking is no, and I'd say it's probably related to my understanding and teaching of what God is, and that's probably primarily where I'm getting my arguments from. But so I'll preface it with this. So my understanding is that God created the universe, and it exists outside the universe. It can observe it all, and is all loving and all these natures. But the evidence for those things, I would say, is within the existence of the universe. I think you have to obviously have that belief. So I can't tell you, I say no, that those attributes, as you just described, I don't think I can defend with the existence of the universe alone. And then I would probably further say that you'd probably say that consciousness, the second point I was going to go into, also can be explained by some I can't say the word, but non human-like mind causing consciousness to emerge. So
actually, I would say I don't know.
Fair. I'd say I don't know as well. Right? It can't say.
So if we don't know,
and then
I have to follow up on something you just said a minute ago, which is, you said, my understanding is that God did this. That's what we're trying to prove. And the question you have to ask yourself is, since you just went to, you have an understanding that God did this, how is that understanding of yours, which I would call a bias, so how is that not a bias that is massaging where you find where you follow the evidence and what you think is more likely? If you already have this understanding that God did it, then aren't you always, as long as you have that understanding, going to find God to be the most probable explanation? I mean, if I already believed in a God, then God is, by, in my worldview, the most likely explanation for everything.
That, yes, I would say, well, first, I wasn't born with the bias, I don't think, but
does that matter?
Developed that bias
does that matter?
My understanding.
Martin, does it matter? Is anybody born with a bias? Was there any reason to think that whether or not you were born with a belief in a God, that was relevant to whether or not a belief in a God is going to bias your search?
Sorry, it wasn't indoctrinated in myself personally.
Well, okay. Martin, is there any reason to think that whether or not your belief was the result of indoctrination impacts whether or not it's a bias?
So I would say I personally, I don't believe I started off with the bias that, God created the universe in the manner in which we have it. In the manner I explained, I wouldn't say that I had that bias before I believed.
That wasn't the question.
When you started figuring out, the whole point of this call is that you are saying there's a higher likelihood for there to be a God than other explanations for the universe. And you're saying that you have an understanding that God did this. And I'm asking, how can you rule that out as a bias? Because I don't have that understanding, and nothing you've said has convinced me, and nothing you've said has come close to convincing me. Nothing you've said is anything that should convince anyone, because you've had fallacies called out, you've flawed reasoning called out. And then when I point out that you have a God belief, which could act as a bias, you're like, well, I didn't start with that belief. Well, I didn't start with that belief either, but I used to have that belief and I got rid of it because it's a bias. How do you know? How you say your understanding is that God did this? What is your understanding that God created the universe based on?
So I think that's where it goes to personal experience and testimony.
So the thing that everybody uses for all of their religions, and you can't actually point to why yours is exclusively the correct one, is the thing.
Yeah, we're at a point now, Martin, where I think probably, especially because Jimmy's tired of this one too. Let's call back and talk about it another time and think through some stuff, because if you're just going to say, I'm convinced for personal reasons from personal experience, well, I don't think for a second you think your personal experience should convince me. I don't have any way to validate or verify your personal experience. And I think I'd almost bet that if you told me what your personal experience was, even if I believed that you are adequately and accurately describing what your personal experience is, I'm pretty sure it still wouldn't convince me.
I'll actually tell you, Martin, what the two questions are you should prepare to answer when you call back, if you call back when I'm on. The first one is this. Let's pretend you're you. Go back to baseline 0, because you were talking about all the biases and whether you had it or not. You're going to go back to baseline 0. You're going to probably want to answer this now. Don't. Think about it. Call it next time. Go back to baseline 0. I don't hold a belief in a God. I don't think there's a God, or I don't believe there is or there isn't a God. What are the first most compelling reasons that you believe you would be drawn back to a belief in God from that ground 0? Then the second question is this. Let's grant you the argument that there was a first cause, not a first God. I don't believe that, but if we grant it, how do you get from there to Islam? Specifically, the first cause was the Islamic God, even if we agreed on a first cause or a person, a creator causer. Those are the questions I'm going to have for next time, but I'm genuinely spent. 35 minutes later, we've got a couple theists waiting. We generally try to end the show in about another 20 minutes or so. So I'm personally spent on this one.
No, thank you. I wrote those questions down, and
cool.
I appreciate it.
Cool. Thanks, Martin.
See you, Martin. Okay, I'll let you pick the order we do the last ones. I've been kind of driving all day.
Okay. Well, we'll go with Jay then. Jay's got wants to give proof of God's existence. Welcome, Jay.
Hi, can you hear me, guys?
Sure can.
Yeah.
Good. It was interesting listening to you guys for the last hour and a half or 2 or so. Now, what proof are you looking for God's existence?
No. You told the screener that you had proof, or you want to give the proof. You give the proof. How in the world, if we don't believe in God, would we know what proof would prove the God? If we knew what proof we wanted, we'd have it.
I need to know what God you're going to give proof for.
Oh, you see, the thing is that I just, while waiting, I did ask my wife to come and join me, and she said, no, she's a very religious person. And now I'm a self-made person because I worked hard. But I do believe in a God, in a higher power, you can say, right? You call him whatever you may, call him Allah, Gita, whatever, Yahweh. But there is something who's more, there's a person, an individual who's more capable than me, and there's another person who's more capable than that person. And finally, there is got to be someone who's more capable than us humans. Do you agree to that or no?
No, because your analogy breaks down, because there is a human who is who is faster than me, and there has to be some fastest human or some set of humans that represent the fastest, just in case there's 10 or 20 of them that are tied. But that doesn't mean that there is some other non-human that is faster than humans. It turns out there are. Cheetahs are faster. And so there has to be some fastest creature on Earth. But that doesn't mean that there has to be a creature that's even faster anywhere else outside in the universe.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that there isn't.
No one said there. Jesus Christ. You said you listened to the show, but clearly you didn't. I'm going to leave you with Matt. Hang on. I'm going to leave you with Matt because shut up. I am genuinely spent. Like this whole fucking show, I must be in a bad mood. This fucking show is just throwing me the fuck out. So I'm going to leave you with Matt. I'm going to step away. I'm going to go have a snack because Jesus Christ, today's show, like, the callers uniquely suck from the theist end. Worse than usual. Go ahead. I apologize for poisoning the well a bit there, but fuck me.
So, Jay, after I pointed out how your argument was wrong, your response was to say, well, you can't prove there's not. But I don't have any requirement to prove that there's not a God. You have a requirement to prove there is, and you presented a flawed argument, which I exposed.
Okay, let's. So basically, are you looking for a viable proof that God exists, right?
Jay, all I'm looking for is for someone who will tell me, I believe in this God for this reason. Can you do that?
Yes, that's what I'm. So basically, you're looking for a viable
No,
proof,
it's not what you've done, Jay. What are the properties of the God that you believe in, and why do you believe in that God?
First, I have to prove, and then we'll talk about the properties. Okay?
No, sir. That's not how the fuck this works. I'm going to mute you and you're going to listen. What kind of individual would show up and say, I'm going to prove something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is that I'm proving until afterwards? Do you think science works that way? Do you think any reasonable argument works that way? Nothing works that way. You define what it is that you're fucking talking about, and then you present the case for it. You don't get to present a case and then say, therefore, a God with these 12 properties exist. Define your God and then give the reason to believe in it. That's the way this works.
Can I talk now?
Yeah, as long as you're going to define your God.
I'm going, look, the thing is, why you're coming to defining God? First, let's prove he exists, okay?
Oh my God, I'm going to mute you again. Listen very carefully. When I unmute you, you are going to define your God in order so that we know what the fuck we're talking about, or I'm going to hang up on you. I hope that's clear. Welcome back, Jay. Please define your God.
Define my God. Okay. My God is someone who helps a person who has been working hard, wants to achieve something, and in spite of all his worldly efforts, he cannot get there, and he is down, and then he is almost in this act of committing suicide, or he is about to lose his mind, and there comes a thought that, look, this is the will of God. And that gives him satisfaction. When the rubber meets the road, this guy, instead of going berserk, that thought that the God exists keeps him from going berserk. That's the God I'm talking of.
That's not a God, and you didn't give any properties of that God. You gave properties of the person who believes that there's a God, who is desperate and flailing around, and the thought that there is a God or that this is the will of God gives that person some motivation. But the thought that there is a God or the thought that there is a will of God doesn't have to in any way tie to a real God. It can just be a good thought. If somebody believes that there's a God that wants them to do that, that can be a motivation. But it isn't a God, and you didn't demonstrate that it could be a God. You described a person. You said, my definition of a God is someone, so you think it's a person, we'll have to get to that, who helps a person who's been working hard and wants to achieve but can't do it on their own and is almost suicidal. You described everything about a person, and the God part here, it could just be any fucking comforting lie that makes someone want to do something. That's not a God.
Listen to me. This is what I was trying to get to, is you have to, where the rubber meets the road. He exists. When did he come into being? All that stuff does not matter to my life. The average life of an American is 77 years. Or for an Indian, it's 70 years. Now, within...
Jay, I'm going to mute you because I don't care about the average lifespan of the United States or what you think is important. You called this show to say that you want to give proof for God's existence, and we have not been able to yet get you to even define a God. So I'm going to skip it, even though everybody with any sense would advise me to not skip it, and just say, let's assume that there is a God, that the God that you believe in is someone who helps people. What is your proof that that God exists?
Okay, the proof, I gave you the proof that when
okay, then goodbye. Then goodbye. If you gave the proof, you fucking liar, then goodbye. I have zero patience for your dishonesty, Jay. You're done. All right, let's try this again.
Thank you to Stacy from the Stacy's Mom podcast, who knew I was having a hard month for various reasons and sent me a bunch of Canadian candy. I'm enjoying a coffee crisp, which is one of my favorite Canadian candies at the moment.
You know what's weird? I hate coffee, but I love Kahlua. And now I'm just wondering, would I love a coffee flavored candy just because it's fucking grossly? Is it pretty sweet?
Yeah, it's like the texture of a Kit Kat bar, but not exactly. It's a little more puffed. It's like wafer rice stuff in there. The chocolate is very present, and Canadian chocolate blows Hershey's out of the park. And the
is
coffee,
it closer to a whatchamacallit?
I don't think
only
so.
Without the rice?
Well, this is definitely rice wafer.
I don't know.
But the coffee is there, but it's not overbearing. But I love coffee, so yeah, I don't know if I'm the best to tell you.
I don't understand because I actively hate coffee. I like Kahlua a lot. I can do Kahlua and milk, but that's it. I hate coffee. I can't do what's that? I love dessert. What's that dessert? Is it tiramisu that's got coffee soaked? Mm-hmm. I can't eat tiramisu at all.
This does kind of remind me a little bit of the flavor of tiramisu. Have you ever had a Jamocha shake from Arby's?
Nope.
Oh, I'll say it's kind of like that as a candy bar.
Arby's has the meats, and for quite a while I was only dating people who were vegetarian and vegan. So I haven't been to Arby's in years, even though neither of us are fully keeping vegan at all.
And
anyway,
Arby's
we got two more calls.
Give me the runs.
We had two more calls to get to, and I want to make sure that we give Donald in Denmark, pronouns are he, him, wants to make a case for the existence of 7 gods he believes in. So, welcome, Donald. Can you tell us about the 7 gods first? Like, do they have names or properties that we can identify?
Yeah, they do, as a matter of fact. I'm glad you asked. I didn't think you would, because it will make it difficult to deny that they exist. Well, let's see, what time is it here in Denmark? It's 5 minutes to 12. So right now it's still my sun god day. And tomorrow will be my moon god day. And these are realities, you know. Tuesday will be my Zeus day, but we're not there yet.
Okay.
I stay in the now.
Donald,
the name of my God
Donald,
is now, by the way. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Donald, are you just going to go through the names of the week and claim that they're gods?
Is this that one idiot with
Well,
the
for
7
me,
day?
yeah, but no, not for anybody else. But I'm giving
Okay,
you where
then
I am with
goodbye.
the power greater
Goodbye.
than myself.
Donald,
And,
goodbye.
yeah.
I don't care if you have some esoteric bullshit God thing. It's a waste of my time. Goodbye. All right. And that means that we can end the call-in portion for today's show with Skylar, an atheist from Idaho who has been patiently waiting for over an hour while we dealt with somebody trying to go through the fucking days of the week or other ideas. Skylar, how are you and how can we help?
Doing great, Matt. I just had a couple questions for you guys concerning deconstruction groups and how I can help people up here in North Idaho.
Volunteer at RFR, and they'll tell you even better than us. Yep. Well, I mean, you can still ask your question and set up your stuff, but that's almost guaranteed to be the answer.
Awesome. Okay, I will definitely look into that. I heard you guys talk about them earlier, or I heard Jimmy talk about it at least. So
it was Matt, but okay.
Doesn't matter.
Was it Matt? Oh, okay. Either way. And then so
I professionally take credit for Matt's work for a living, so it's fine.
That's gonna burn you really bad someday.
I don't give a fuck. I'm halfway out the door anyway. I'm transitioning out this year.
Yeah, I always recommend recovering from religion.
Guys, since I know you guys are about out.
Yeah, I always recommend recovering from religion, but there are other, there are local organizations as well. And there are some local organizations that are probably seriously in need of volunteers. So, I mean, if that's all you were asking about volunteers, is that. But if you had something else related to, like your own deconstruction or whatever else, I'm happy to give you my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm presently long past my deconstruction, so okay. I'm definitely okay there. I'm just more interested in helping others. Since I know you guys are more logical, I tend to be more compassionate or empathetic towards other people. So I wanted to get your guys' point of view on some of these things. So I was just wondering if there were things that you guys wish you would have known before you started helping people who were struggling with religion in general.
Don't just let people on your show because you're too nice to say no. Sorry, I probably have real advice too, but I wish I had known that. Vet harder.
That's fair.
Sign up for the service, delete me. All of the bits of advice I have aren't for like how to help. It's more how to like survive as a public figure.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Try to think.
I'd say stick with the best organizations, things like Recovering from Religion. Look for local groups, meetup groups, because there are people who are going to be out there. One of the biggest things is just going to be, hey, I don't think there's anybody like me. I think I'm alone. I'm the only one around here. And that's going to be, a very difficult position for many of them to be in. Just being around so that they have somebody else to interact with is probably going to be good enough.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, because I previously hopped on Meetup, and there was an atheist group around here, but then they must have shut down or something. They couldn't find another person to take over. So I haven't been able to find anything up here, and we're very, very conservative up here in North Idaho.
Actually, I have one. I have one that might even be a little bit deep, but one of the greatest frustrations I find in communities and in the way where people interact with each other these days, be extremely cautious of the way you are judging where a person is in their deconstruction, because somebody in their deconstruction is a moving target. And I find that people are all too ready to judge a person based on where they are and try to commit them to that spot. and focus heavily on their imperfections and try and sort of divide up into cliques and groups on the basis of these sort of purity checks and stuff. And it's a real plague on online atheist communities, especially. And so you mentioned being empathetic and stuff. And I've been bringing up this phrase that I use quite often, which is there, but for the grace of circumstance go I. Treat everybody like they're you at a different part in your journey, and stop being so fucking serious about yourself and comparing other people to that the standard you think you embody or others embody. Help people get to where they need to go and instead of shitting on them for where they haven't gotten yet.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then, do you have anything, Matt? Sorry.
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. I just have one more question for you guys. I just wanted to know, because might be able to use this to help me, and I was wondering what made you guys so passionate about religion and by proxy atheism.
I was studying to be a preacher and had been deeply entrenched in Christianity for all of my life until I, was an adult. I became an atheist because I wanted to be a better Christian, and it turns out, if you got a roommate who's an atheist and you're going to try and figure out how to convince him and you're open and honest about it, then you end up stop being a Christian. And so I don't know that I keep recommending recovering from religion. My process was long, and I don't know how to explain how and why I feel compelled to do what I do, other than I'm an obsessive learner. I'd love to know if, in fact, there is a God or anything supernatural. And in the meantime, I like the fact that I am helping people open their eyes to the same sort of things. I'm pissed off that I was duped and that the overwhelming majority of people who have ever lived were duped, and that the thing that people have been duped into believing has such a stranglehold on the world that I live in. It is embarrassing to me that I wake up every day in a world predominantly in the hands of people who believe absolute nonsensical bullshit. And it applies not just to religion, but to the QAnon, conspiracy theorist, flat earth, anti-vax, anti-science, just fucking garbage thinking across the board. I'm actually irritated about it almost all the time, but being able to engage with people and watch them think and watch them change their mind doesn't quite make the terrible world worth it, but it makes the possibility of a better world more likely, and makes that's what makes it worth it.
Yeah. I'm not passionate about atheism. You would ask what made us passionate about atheism, and that's not what I'm passionate about. I am passionate about truth, and to some degree, because it's the best way to get to truth, I think, is skepticism. But the thing that I think I'm really the most passionate about, and this is going to sound super like virtue signally, but is equality. And the reason why I say it's that is because, or why it relates to that is, it has been a tremendous privilege to have left Mormonism and religion in general. It has been something that not everybody gets to do. Lots of people are too afraid to. People are abused. There are people who don't leave because they are trapped. Then there are people who are trapped in a sort of metaphorical ways of thinking, conditioned. But virtually every person who I think is a monster because of their religion was the victim before they were the monster. And it was a very big, I am a privileged person for being able to not only escape that, but to share that. And so to me, when I say I'm passionate about equality, I am passionate about extending that privilege and the benefits that came with that privilege to as many people as possible. Also knowing that the more you extend it to other people, the smaller that group of people who can't leave becomes, because you are also creating a world with more support communities, more alternatives to believing. And that extends also into my political views. I'm passionate. I'm a socialist because I'm passionate about equality. It's basically what socialism embodies the most. Not like a forced equality or this sort of authoritarian equality that a lot of people pretend it is, as they mistake socialism for fascism. But equality of access, of opportunities, and equalizing things that are undeserved levels of privilege that just go to some groups, usually because of who they are, where they were born, who they were born as. And so generally, whatever I am passionate about as an activist goes, it's that same thing of wanting to balance the world, I guess, in that way, and pursue a world where I give a fuck what anybody believes, but everybody should be able to believe with their eyes wide open. And right now we don't live in that world. And so extending that to other people just on the basis of knowing how much it improved my life is most of the reason I am an activist, and why I haven't quit, even though it's a popular theme for me to mention how much I hate it here.
Well, case in point from the show today, I could definitely see why you feel that way.
It turns out I needed a snack. I am feeling a lot better.
That like, you're not alone there. Like, as soon as I'm done getting an answer out to Skylar, we're going to wrap this show up, and I'm going to go eat because I'm about to fall over from hunger.
You know those hungry grab a Snickers? I embody all of those people right now.
I am absolutely Betty White right now, except nowhere near as cool.
That's who could be.
But Jimmy, I wanted to let you know I completely share your opinion that nobody is born a monster. We're kind of raised to become monsters, whether we know it or not.
Yeah, I mean, there might be a person or two that are born genuine, like, abnormalities with brain things that are, but I still argue that's a circumstance. You could have been born with the genetic, problem that I'm sure there are a few born psychopaths
that you needed as well.
Yeah. Well, psychopathy, borderline personality disorder, antisocial disorder are all it's rare that treatment works. It actually usually makes, and sociopathy. I think there's one more. I think there's 5, but those 4, treatment actually usually makes worse as the people adapt to mask what is nefarious. Yeah. So there are complications to it, but I'd still categorize them all under circumstances. And when you understand those things, it can actually help you extend a little more compassion to people, but also feel a little less personally offended by garbage people. When you kind of understand your place in the world that way.
That's the way I try to have, it's kind of outlook I try to have on the world, that there are some things in this world that you can't control, and we need to recognize that people are people, and sure, you may have people who are serial killers out there, but there's also something that led them to that point, and they could have gotten some type of help or something.
Yeah, those serial killers, once again, it's usually brain injury combined with like serial killer profiles. It's some crazy number. Maybe I'm just going to throw 80% out there. The number might not be right, but it's usually like traumatic brain injury and then like conditions at home that were also like the number of serial killers who had very cruel mothers is also really high. Not as high as traumatic brain injury, but it's like most of them had traumatic brain injuries, and then a large group of them also had cruel mothers, because it's mostly men. But there's very few women serial killers, unless women are really good at hiding it. Maybe there's the same number, but women get away with it. No, that's unlikely. Anyway, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that a lot of it also has to do with the lack of compassion, whether they have the incapability of understanding compassion, or they weren't given it as a kid. So yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys talking to me, and it definitely gave me some ideas on what I should do to help people around here for sure. And I'm hoping that we can all take a moment to help people see things in a little more open-minded viewpoint.
I want to correct because I did say something too fast. Borderline in isolation actually is highly treatable. However, there's a comorbidity with borderline that's common. I'm going to fuck it up. So I'm going to wait until I read it. So I listed borderline amongst it. It's not borderline in isolation. That is, I shouldn't say none of them are untreatable, but there are these antisocial ones, including antisocial disorder, sociopathy, and psychopathy. All three of those that therapy tends to exacerbate the condition and make the people better at blending in. But someone did mention that I think I did just say borderline in isolation, and that borderline is treatable.
Okay, good to know. Good to know.
Yep.
All right. Well, I don't have any more questions for you guys, and I'm sure you guys want to get out and go get something to eat for sure.
Oh, narcissistic personality disorder is also on the list, and maybe that's the comorbidity is also the wrong word, but I think people know what I'm saying. That might be the one that people with borderline have a higher occurrence. That might be it, but again, I'm not a psychologist. I read about psychology for fun, so. Ask Shannon. Tell Shannon to clean up my mess.
Yes.
Yeah. Next week.
Thanks, Skylar.
See you, Skylar.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Get these overlays off.
Well, apart from the fact that we've got Gutsick Gibbon hosting Skeptalk tomorrow, and I have other work to do Tuesday, but I'll be back on Wednesday for the hang up with Brady. He's coming in. It's been a little while since I've had Brady on. What have you got going? Oh, I forgot. Hey, you guys just sat through hours of us talking with people, and you can click like, you can click subscribe, you can join the channel, you can support the channel, you can go to Patreon. By the way, if you go to Patreon, you'll end up getting a discount code for the things that are at linemerch.com. You can support at patreon.com/calltheline. But if you go to Line Merch, not only, the old mugs or the mug contest thing is over, but there is a new mug there, which I'm supposed to remind you is also dishwasher safe because people had concerns about that from some of the others, as well as a Call the Line t-shirt and the hoodies like Jimmy has, which I don't even have yet, but I think I want the pink one because, gay homie.
That's right. The pink one's cool. Yeah. So it's covered in GFYs and YGHs if people haven't.
It's also covered in bits of chocolate stuff.
Yeah, I definitely have been spilling chocolate and barbecue chips. Ma'am, the amount different I feel after having a snack. Today did have a lot of shitty callers, but I may have overreacted.
And I don't think the callers today were, some of them were certainly frustrating, but I don't think they were anywhere nearly as shitty as you did. So I'll give you a virtual go fuck yourself hug.
You know what it is? I've always had an annoyance with people who believe in Christianity or Islam or some stronger form of theism. I've always been annoyed with so I'm going to call in with these stupid defenses of what is essentially deism or deism adjacent. And we're never going to get to close the gap of, even if you could prove that some God existed, we're not going to address the gap. And that gap is the difference between how you vote, how you treat people. None of that is on the deism stuff. The way you are treating other people, you're indoctrinating other people, you're judging other people, you are infringing on other people's rights. We're not even going to get close to that shit. We're just going to stick with the box, the area of the cubes. That shit drives me fucking crazy. And so I will defend that we had like 4 or 5 of those calls. And I am still frustrated with that being the theme of today, but I did overreact.
I share that frustration. When it was clear that you should go get a snack was Martin, Martin's incredibly frustrating in some aspects, but Martin's genuinely one of the most honest and is definitely trying. most of the time. And so I was glad we made some progress there. We'll call back. He takes notes, he listens, and I would happily have more conversations with Martin. The Cabala math thing, not for me. I learned too much about it when I was studying the equidistant letter sequence codes from the Bible code stuff, and that led to a lengthy deep dive around the internet into Cabala and stuff. But it's one of those things where we all got our days and everything else. So on that note, we're gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna release you to go do other things, even if that means you go watch whatever you want to watch, because we don't have any control over that. I just saw somebody talking about how a Jimmy hat is another name for a condom.
Yeah,
and so I think not only should we get condoms with the line on it to hand out at things, but maybe we should make a Go Jimmy Yourself hat, a good little beanie to put on.
Did you ever watch the show Community? And
Never.
how they printed the name of the school on the condoms, which was causing the condoms to break. And so they're doing like a sex education fair. And there's a point where they're like, oh, the condoms are faulty. We have to stop this. And so they tell Abed to run and make the announcement. And so Abed's super out of breath. And he's like, attention students, do not use condoms. If you have sex tonight, do not use condoms.
Oh, that's so bad. Hey, look, we've seen the list of Patreon producers 2 or 3 times. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to hear a Sunday show on the line. Don't forget to check out all the other shows on the line this week, and you can support us by going to patreon.com/calltheline.